This meeting to order the Town Commission special meeting on July 13th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Let's all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Typically our meetings, the first meetings of the month are workshop. This one is a special meeting because we have a few items to vote on. So that being said, we are going to start with roll call. Town Clerk.
Mayor Mayfield.
Here.
Vice Mayor Campo.
Here.
Commissioner Fender.
Here.
Commissioner Kurzman.
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak.
Here.
And Madam Mayor, let the record reflect, we have Elizabeth Lenahan here representing Torsivia Law.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me. We are going to move on to proclamations and presentations. We have up Fire Chief Vince Felicione from the City of Stewart Fire Rescue giving us the update. You want to come up to the podium?
Hello.
Welcome.
Good evening. I have a little glare. I was admiring all the new stuff, but if I look weird to you guys, I'm like, I just kind of see myself, so I don't know, it's weird.
That's okay, you look weird live.
We're happy to have you.
Right. Thanks. Thank you, Manager, Commissioners, Mayor. Manager Berger has me, come out, as most of you know, to give the update. I didn't know if you wanted to start with something different. Did you want to do this first? I know this is not really that exciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting, but whatever you like, it's fine. We appreciate you coming out and giving us the highlights of what's going on with our fire department, basically.
Yeah, and really, I want everybody to know that it can be more of a, question and answer too. If anybody has questions on anything, I'll be happy to try to answer that as well. But if you want to start with this is something that we look at, we try to do quarterly-ish. And this is as of June 30th. We have a third-party billing company that does our EMS billing. So they break it down from all of Stewart, all of the city, just the city, and of course, just Sewalls Point on the bottom. So if you look at 21, this is through June 30th, and that represents 36 transports that are billable transports. So not all transports are billable, based on insurance company and Medicare, and as most of you probably know that. So out of the billable transports, that would be the charges next to it, the collections so far, the balance, the gross collection rate, and really the explanation from them, whether that number, obviously that number is not bad when you look at the cities so far. Really a lot of the billable transports is really the way they explained it, since, or for the past few months, are still outstanding, of course. So they're still waiting for those payments to come in. And then, of course, the percentages will go up, and hopefully the balances will come down. Any questions on that? I know that's kind of short and sweet and not very exciting, I know, but as far as really updates from us for fire rescue, it was a long road with a new fire truck that we had purchased last year. We actually purchased it almost 2 years ago, and then COVID really delayed it. So we got that truck in February, and finally got that on the road. It took about 3 months to outfit it because we were really behind on a lot of other items. So that was a big project. When you get the new truck, it's just bare. So it doesn't come like turnkey, ready to go. So we got it on the road. So we do have a new fire engine roaming around that's probably been out here. We have a new ambulance being built now. It's been delayed with COVID as well. Everything's COVID. We all know that, right? Even if it's not. So, so we're hoping that'll be here in the fall. So you'll be seeing that roaming around too. So that's a really nice truck. And of course, we're going through our budget stuff now as well. So, we'll be asking for more stuff, and I'll see what my board says. So, and I'm open to answer any questions if anybody can think of anything pertaining to fire rescue or.
I have a question.
Sure.
You were saying these were rescues, so I'm assuming that's the ambulance. How many fire calls do you get for Sewalls Point in general?
We, obviously, that's not in this table, and I can get that info.
I'm just-
But yeah, we would count that separate.
Okay.
You know, what we were trying to do with this table is just
Right.
capture the billable EMS revenue and where the percentages are on the collection rate and stuff like that. But obviously, that does not represent total calls, period.
Right.
And let alone fire incidents as well. So we really have total number of calls for the town, and then we would break that down into how many of those are fire incidents. Fires, meaning it could be fire alarms, could be, you know, car fires, could be any electrical power line fires, tree fires, stuff like that. Then we go into medical calls. There's also a number of medical calls that we don't even transport. So, you know, there's patients that don't require, don't want to go to the hospital every single time, so we would still come out. Those are not counted. There's obviously elderly populations all over, and so a lot of times ambulances come out and help them with certain things, whether that's help off the floor, out of a chair, or items like that. So those are not transports, those are not counted really either. So there's different totals of items. Obviously I can get all that for you.
I was more just curious.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
Kaya was
Wait,
concerned because she allowed her husband to cook when she was out of town. But I think
You want to see if that was one of the numbers, right?
Yeah, I was just wondering. We do have a question from Commissioner Fender.
Thanks for coming out, Chief.
Sure.
Appreciate it. And I don't fully understand the relationship you have with Martin County, but I noticed they're moving their fire station, or there's a new facility going up right here. Do you know anything about, because that seems closer to us, not much, but little. Does that have any interplay with, once it's online, with the work you'll do in coordination with them as it relates to Sewalls Point?
No, so
he's the city.
because.
Yeah, he's a city.
Yeah, because we're under contract with you guys, so we would be the primary. Now, we do have an interlocal agreement with Martin County. So, you know, if we were unavailable, they would automatically respond. We've had that agreement in place for years.
Yeah.
And obviously, if the call is big enough, we kind of all go anyway.
Yeah.
So that really won't really
No
change
effect,
anything.
yeah.
No.
So when a call comes in, are they alerted as well as you, or they don't get
No.
alerted until you alert them?
It depends on the call type.
Yeah.
So if all of our units, with all things being equal, if they were in their station and we were in our station, then it would depend on the call type. So if it's a standard call that, you know, our units at this closest station could handle, then it would just be our units. If it would be a fire, you know, a house fire, then all of our units and that station would come as well.
Okay.
So it just depends on the call.
All right, cool. I'm just also intrigued by the building of that structure so close to the old one. You know any backstory behind what the county's doing on that? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
and all I really know is that I guess the previous station is fairly old,
Oh.
and I'm pretty sure the salt has done its toll on it.
Yeah.
And that would be the extent of my knowledge. I know it's been there for a very long time, and I know it was in pretty bad shape.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. I do appreciate you coming here.
Make a
and-
comment.
My pleasure.
Okay.
So, as a follow-up to Commissioner Fender's thought process there, one of the things I was sharing recently with some Martin County affiliates was that we have residents that are concerned and complaining because their insurance bills have gone up, because we've become so accustomed to working with you and your wonderful ISO rating of 1, and so everybody's insurance has been nice and steady.
Right.
And then that changed when some insurance companies started picking up on the fact that 14 was responding in some cases more often to their particular section, and so their insurance changed. Their insurance bills went up because, as you know, Martin County is ISO rated 3. So that difference is being felt within Sewalls Point. Not much, I think, that you can do other than, you know, potentially we work towards expanding that relationship more.
And actually, I did hear some of that, and I did reach out to ISO on that topic.
Okay.
And that should not be occurring. So the ISO, the way ISO works is that that's rated for our department. Sewalls Point automatically gets that rating because we're under contract. So that has nothing to do with who responds where in the number of times they respond. So that doesn't even factor into the equation. So I can't really speak of that scenario. But what ISO did say is they would be happy to, if that resident wanted to reach out to you or me and give us their address, we can work with ISO to clear that up, because that should not be occurring.
And your office did help us with that, with one resident who called, so thank you for that.
Good.
And then for the public's knowledge, as you all are walking around as well, our clerk can provide the contract with the city of Stewart to any resident that may want a copy of it to provide to their insurance company.
Correct. And shortly after we got the rating, I did have numerous residents out here that were trying to, reap that benefit. And really what most carriers ask for is the public protection class, the PPC letter from the fire department that we get presented from ISO. So I've sent numerous letters out, since that has occurred. So that would be the other thing, not so much even just the contract, but if anybody needs that proof letter, that's really what you should be bringing to your carrier. And if there remains any questions, please feel free to reach out, because, the ISO representative can look into that and take care of that.
So we'll have our city clerk follow up with your office and get a copy of that so we can keep it on file if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Okay, Commissioner
Yeah,
Friend got it taken
absolutely.
care of. That's good information.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Any other
And
questions?
lastly, thank
No?
you for coming to the
Sure.
recent 4th of July events and following the parade
Yeah.
of bicycles
Absolutely.
with your truck. It was a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah,
Our pleasure.
great
Thank you,
community
thank you.
service.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you.
All right, moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. I see a public comment, and I believe it's written as agenda, but I believe this is non-agenda because I do not see invitation to grand opening ribbon cutting. Yes, Ronnie DeChambeau, if you want to come up and.
Got it right.
You want to come up and state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes for your public comment, and we don't interact, but we are all listening.
Thank you kindly. My name's Ronnie DeChambeau. Way to go. Yes, we are here. One, I would like to offer my services once again anytime for the town of Sewalls Point. A few years ago, I did play the national anthem on the 4th of July out at the park, and it was a lot of fun, and it was very much an honor. So anytime that is, if you want it, it's always there. I want to let you know that. I've been known to play the saxophone around town a few years, so maybe some of you know about that. Reason I'm here tonight, want to share with you just an exciting thing that we have going on right across the street, right next door to Stringer's, in the old Fun Tours travel spot. We opened up a luxury real estate office. I'm dressed here tonight and I was a little late because we are having a Jensen event over there at Stringer's and a chamber event. We are having on Thursday night our ribbon cutting with the Martin Chamber and our grand opening from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We are really, really, really grateful and honored to be, part of a short list of firms that are here in this community that serve it. And just wanted to invite any and everyone, I don't know how quickly this gets out, but wanted to invite all the commissioners and everybody involved in Town Hall to come over and join us. 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Of course, 5 o'clock, the ribbon cutting, which is a pretty informal thing, and it'll be really nice with the Martin County Chamber, or the Stewart Chamber, excuse me. And then we're just going to enjoy one another and get to know one another. So I thank you for your time and certainly appreciate it and hope to see all of you. All right? Thank you so much. And remember, you can call me anytime for the 4th of July. I will be there with bells on.
All right.
Right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. All right. I do not see any more public comment. April, there's no more, correct? Okay. Let's move on to any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda. Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right. Call the vote, please.
Mayor Mayfield,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo. Yes. Commissioner Fender,
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. to contracts. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Campo? Aye. Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak?
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes. All right, excellent. We are moving on to new business. We have the Stringer's Tavern and Oyster Bar proposal for additional signage. Nick Darley? If I do not see. Nick Darley, Town Manager, do you know? They're not here?
Not here.
Probably out of this ribbon cutting.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
I thought maybe, okay.
Well, let me think first. I believe, April, we have their PowerPoint presentation. If you'd like, Mayor, I can,
Hold on one second. Commissioner Fender buzzed in. Is this,
I was
do you
just
know
gonna
any, do
say
you have any
that, I
insight?
did get a call from Stephanie Young today on the topic, but
Oh.
I didn't get the impression she wouldn't be here, but I
Okay.
assume that we can, the information seems pretty crisp.
All right, Town Manager, yes. Why don't you present the information and, I mean, maybe something came up. I don't want to
well, let me
deny them the opportunity of something legit.
see if it's,
I don't have any
I can
contact.
send her a text, see if she's on her
Because
way.
I have his phone number if you want me to call.
Would you please call him real quick? Yes.
I thought I had it somewhere else, though. You're right. Okay.
We could, you know what, we could move it to,
Let's just see if we get a response.
I'm happy to tell you what it's about.
Okay.
Because I asked them to do the presentation.
Okay,
so
why
to
don't
be
you start with
fair.
that?
Okay. So I'll walk through this
Darley?
beautiful PowerPoint that they made, and this is for their new restaurant, and I know you all are aware of it, and it's part of our engine for economic development
Vice
over there
President?
at the Harbor Bay Plaza. And they came to us, to myself and to the
He's
building
supposed to be at a
official.
meeting at the Town Commission Hall. Do you know if he was attending?
When they brought us the information that they wanted to change and add a sign, the complication is really that our sign ordinance does not allow for any variation from the sign ordinance. And so the sign ordinance, as I've brought to you before, says there's only allowed to be one sign per restaurant and per vendor or merchant that's over there. And in the past, we had talked about potentially changing that sign ordinance so that there are opportunities to have variances. But since there's a specific sentence in there that says there will be no variances to this sign ordinance, the only people that can change that law are you all. So I am in agreement that there used to be a sign in this side of their establishment when there was a previous restaurant. I agree that I think it would do well for business. I think that people will want to know what's on that corner while they're at this very busy intersection. And I personally see no objection to this, but only you can make that decision. And that's the short version of the PowerPoint presentation. And I'll show you a picture of it. This is the outside on the screen. That's where the old sign used to be when it was Prawn Broker. And this is their proposed location. So two things that are different, the location, the fact that there will technically be two because they have that small one upon the walk-in entry. But this also is not this is a more animated sign. The ordinance typically calls for white background lettering and plain. So this is different. And you have the authority to approve or not approve.
Okay.
Okay. Town
That's the
Manager,
proposed location and the proposed viewing of it.
you said two. You're talking about two total, the Stringer's
total.
one in the front.
One in the front, one on the
okay.
side, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to confirm
Yeah.
that. It appears that April's still on the phone, so I will entertain some questions. Commissioner Fender?
I was just going to say that I think the spirit of the ordinance is to protect us from unsightly oversignage, and personally, I've eaten at Stringer's. I think they've done a phenomenal job with their renovation, and the graphics are excellent. We can see what they intend to do, assuming they stick to this plan. I have no objection to supporting the betterment of that business environment and further attracting people into Stringer's. So I'm in favor of this, so
Okay.
for what it's worth.
Thank you. Commissioner Campo?
I agree, and I was wondering, would it be appropriate to change the ordinance so that we didn't have a future restaurant want something similar rather than just a voice vote? Is that what you're looking, just a voice vote tonight?
On this particular one, it's just a voice vote to allow them to begin putting their sign up and keep business going.
Yes.
Okay.
In the future, we can adjust that ordinance if you give that direction.
I think we should direct staff to come back with tweaking that and maybe give them a temporary permission to move forward. But I think it would be good to direct staff so that we can change the ordinance to allow for what they're looking for, so that we don't have, I mean, we now have maybe 5 restaurants in there. So that might be a good thing, and maybe, is it Elizabeth?
Yes.
Maybe you can help us with that?
Will do.
If we need to, I mean, at your
Absolutely.
discretion.
And your appointed Board of Zoning Appeals will do that process for you. We'll vet it
Okay.
before it comes to you, and then you'll have final approval.
As far as the actual wording of the ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you like me to make a motion then?
That's separate.
All right, yeah, and let's,
Okay.
let me see if she, oh, you are off, I
They
wanted,
can't get a hold of him.
okay. All right, well, I think we should just proceed and approve, given, I'll entertain all the comments, but as long as it adheres to what is written in the agenda. Commissioner Kurzman?
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say what Commissioner Fender and Vice Mayor Campo have said. They've done a very good job. It's very tasteful. It's nothing that's obnoxious, and they did a great job. Really, the restaurant, the food's good, and it created a lot of life. When you drive through Sewalls Point, there's actually cars in the parking lot again, and it doesn't look like a ghost town like it did for a while.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging to see a business be successful and actually look more of an asset to the town and beautify the town, which I feel it has. Everything that they've done is, they went all out on.
Okay,
So I have no problem.
thank you. Commissioner Fender, did you want to add?
I was just
that
going to
or make
add
your-
to James's comment. I'm not opposed to looking at the ordinance again, but I feel like the ordinance has done exactly what it's supposed to do. They've come to us for a deviation, and they did it tastefully. The ordinance existed to kind of force them down that path, and we can approve or deny. And you said the BZA is going to jump in front as well, but
How about we'll do the motion for the approval of this temporary, and then we'll get to the
like I said,
discussion
I'm
on
not
it.
passionate about it, but I think it's working fine.
Can I get a motion to approve the signage for stringers?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Should we add anything, town manager, about sticking to, okay. All right, seeing no discussion, can I get a vote? I mean,
Commissioner
call-
Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompeck,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo.
Aye.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Now, this is a workshop, so we could just, if the BZA is,
Are we back to workshop now?
This is a special meeting for voting, but it's an informal.
yeah.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we direct the staff and legal counsel as needed to come up with wording that would allow for clear delineation of this sign for stringers, so that there's no misunderstanding with future occupants of the plaza. That would be my motion.
So is this different than I thought you wanted to change the ordinance for future variances? Is this in addition to that, or is this just, I thought we were approving the okay for stringers, and then you wanted to look forward to changing the ordinance so that we wouldn't have to go through the commission, but instead go through the BZA? Is that? that was
May I
my-
ask,
Yes.
would you entertain a motion, sir, that just said direct staff, including to come back with proper language?
Yes.
So that,
Yeah, my
So that variation
intention
there.
is that other restaurants don't come and request the same thing, because,
I second.
Okay. Discussion, Commissioner Tompeck?
Well, I was just going to say, Frank, I was going to agree with you. I think the ordinance is doing exactly what we want it to do, and that if somebody else has an exception, they should bring it back to us. So I don't think we necessarily need to change it,
okay. I mean,
because I think we want to, see what's going on up there in the future.
Okay.
And I think that accomplishes what you just said, right?
so the commission in this case is superseding the BZA by providing, yeah.
you're the
variance
only ones
on
that
their
can change the law.
own. Without the BZA first.
Correct, because when it goes to the BZA, it doesn't necessarily have to come back to the commission for approval,
Okay.
and then you lose sight of it.
Okay.
I'm okay if you don't think it needs additional attention.
At this time, we're good. As long as you are okay with this type of approaching, everybody's going to need to approach you, and we're trying to make it controlled. I know at one point you started to receive some emails, and so we grabbed the client and said, we really want you to do the presentation in a formalized manner. And I think this was pretty formalized. If they showed up, it would have been even better.
No.
But, but typically they would, somebody would show up,
Right.
present the information, and you get to make those types of decisions. And the other thing that, and I will lean over to Elizabeth on this to make sure I don't say anything that's inappropriate, but the one thing that you can do differently than, say, the boards that are your advisory boards is if there's something that is not working in your eyes that matches the culture of the town, you would have the ability to speak to that representative as they're here and say, I'm a little concerned about this, and that's pretty influential, and they may like to fix those items. The board doesn't have that type of influence, the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Is that,
And I would refer back to the attorney.
I agree with Michelle. There is that. The only thing I would say is if you wanted to have a formalized process that brings these types of changes to this board instead of to your BZA, you could put a deviation provision in or a variance provision in that directs that type of action instead. So you could tailor it specifically.
okay.
And the reason why that is interesting is because before I was sitting in this chair, and then in the beginning when I was sitting in this chair, before I learned the culture of the town, there was really, we were saying no, because the ordinance says a certain language. And really what we should be considering is that culture of yes. How else can we help build business? How else is this in alignment with the commission's policy and procedures and your mission? And so, I would just like to be able to have an opportunity to be able to bring it to you. But to have, what I don't like, Elizabeth, in this ordinance is that it specifically says one sentence that says there are no variances allowed. I mean, that's
That's why I would
dictatorship,
would suggest if you were amenable to making the change but you wanted to keep that power with town commission, that you allow for variances by town commission only, and have that process specific to this board instead of one of your advisory boards.
So how, if we made that change that you're talking about, how is that different than what happens right now?
It wouldn't be. It would be this process.
Except
It's
that
just putting it in your code so
Right.
that it's a formal process instead of the town
Okay.
manager.
if you have a different person in either of our roles who just read the information and it's black and white, they wouldn't
see
even
what
bring
you're
it to
saying.
you. So it was only because as we speak, we know that you would like to know about these types of changes
Okay.
and you're pro-business. And so we bring it to you. But you really want to anticipate laws, ordinances, codes for the future, people that you don't know
Yeah.
who will be sitting here and how will they interpret it.
That makes sense. Commissioner Campbell, would you want to amend the motion, withdraw it, or do you want to keep it maybe?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I know Vinnie was always big on having variances of this nature come through the commission. So I think we want to retain that. And I don't know if that requires us to make a change. Are you saying it does?
Correct. Right now, your code says that for sign ordinances, for sign provisions, there is no procedure for a variance. So if you want to formalize that it is okay to bring those forward like we did
Yeah.
tonight, then we should put that back in your code.
I thought we fixed that.
No.
Because my challenge to the legal department is, it's the law that was made by the commission. The commission makes the law. The commission can, at this point, dutifully
Right.
change the law if they need to.
So,
Specifically and situationally, I'd rather you not do it situationally. I'd rather there be a process so that you don't get caught up in, oh, you like this restaurant better than that restaurant.
Right.
And so we just have that process.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
It's really, it wouldn't be
It's a small town.
opening the whole thing, but it would be just a small piece of it that would enable people to understand how they would be able to bring it before you.
okay, so just to clarify for all the, because I was trying to follow it all along, that we are not handing it over to the BZA. This would be a rewording of the ordinance to say that these changes come before the commission and spell it out, so that in the future, people that might not know in theory, a commissioner wouldn't even know this was happening. They could just say, no, you're not allowed. Correct?
It has to be spelled out in the sign portion itself.
Yes.
So, specifically that it would be the commission that's the authority. And the reason for that is because elsewhere in your codes and ordinances, in your charter, it says that the BZA has the authority first.
Yeah.
And so we have to actually supersede that.
Yes, I think that sounds
It has
good.
to be in writing.
So, I mean, rather than a formal motion, I think at this point, it's best that you come back to us with the language that you think we need in order to accomplish what we are all basically.
That
Okay.
sounds good. Do you have to withdraw so that we're official?
I never got a second, so,
I think Frank seconded it.
Nope, dies for lack of a second.
okay, I'll withdraw
All
then.
right. All right.
And you can cancel mine.
Good
but-
conversation.
Okay. All right. That was great. I do wish we had the presentation so we could tell them how great they're doing and how we all like it, but maybe something happened, so it all worked out. All right. On to discussion. Item A, 2021 session highlights. Vice Mayor Campo, do you want to?
This isn't going to take long, and I really wanted to just make sure that the police force was on board with this. This is a new state law that was effective July the 1st, which prohibits anonymous complaints for code enforcement. And to me, being a good neighbor is being able to have the courage to knock on your neighbor's door and say, your dog is bothering me, or your lawn is too high, and, can you work it out? But instead, there's been a pattern, and it's affected this town, where people just make anonymous complaints. And the fact is, it's the law. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was that now people can still complain against code enforcement. You just have to say, hey, James Campo called in a complaint and my neighbor's yard is not mowed, or they have a junked car out front or something. So, I mean, we have laws, we want to enforce them. It's just, there's been a history of, hey, that neighbor didn't invite me to their Christmas party 7 years ago, and their branch fell on my property, and so now they've got a car parked in the street, and I'm going to snitch on them and not hold, and withhold my name. So the second thing that I wanted to point out about this is it does apply to commissioners. So there was a commissioner in the past who would, often be a magnet for anonymous complaints, and then he would turn them in. So this law applies to us too. So if your neighbor says, hey, I don't want to snitch on Mr. Jones, but I know you're on the commission, can you snitch on them? This law is now applying to you. So just, be careful, I guess is what I'm saying.
Which one are we talking about, by the way?
HB 883.
Commissioner Campo, I have a quick question. I looked it up because I wasn't sure what, when it was in our agenda when I first saw it. I looked it up and then I saw something that it went to another bill I'm not familiar with, or it was part of the Senate bill, or is it still, why did I get confused when I looked it up online?
So I don't know why you're confused, but I know on the Senate bill, it has a Senate bill number.
Right.
When it's on the House bill, it's got a different number.
Okay.
So they don't stick with the same numbers. It might be
Okay.
SB
Yes, it was like 40 or 50 or
14
something.
or something like that. But I have been assured by Representative Overdorf that has passed, and it passed, and the governor signed it into law.
Okay.
And legal counsel has given us clarification that this is what we have to do in the future. So, and I just really wanted to pass it before the staff and the police force, and they're on board, but also warn the commissioners that people might be now coming to you with these types of things. There was a lady that came to me, she said, my neighbor's branch fell on my property 3 years ago. It was a former neighbor, and she was still holding against the house, like the house was responsible for that. And what should I do? I'm like, call town hall. I mean, don't tell me. I hope that we can have a culture of respect and dignity and courage of just saying, hey, you might not know, but your light is shining in my bedroom window or something like that. Would you mind adjusting it, rather than having to have the police? I'm sure they have better things to do than that. So I'm encouraged by this and hope that we can foster some goodwill amongst neighbors.
Okay. Thank you. It does sound like something that will affect the town. All right. Commissioner Fender.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what, I'm interested now, because I don't know the nuance of this law. What are we supposed to respond now when they come to us? What's the answer? What's the official path now?
Is to call it into town hall and list your name and phone number as the complainer.
Okay.
And then if they say, oh, I don't want to do that, then, well, if you feel strongly about it, stick your name with it. If not, work it out.
Got it.
I mean, what do you tell your kids when they fight over a toy, right? Work it out.
Talk to your mom.
That's how they do it in the Fender household. I like that. I like that.
All right, moving on to item B, Board of Zoning Adjustments and Code Enforcement Board members. First up is the BZA Board, and the first item is there are 3 BZA members, Frank Tadikis, Howard Priceman, and Ann Schmidt. Their terms expired at 12/20/20. I have been notified, the town clerk reached out to them, and they do want to extend their terms. So I'll call for discussion amongst the commissioners about it, but I'm looking for a motion to approve the extension of the 3 more years for the above referenced BZA board members.
So move.
Okay, now, wasn't one of them not agreeing to?
That was, her term is still current, so I'll get to that one next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, these were 3, correct, April? Yes. So these 3 still want to continue, and their terms had expired in 12/20.
So that's Schmidt?
Yes, Frank
Priceman.
Tadikis, if I'm saying that correctly, Howard Priceman, and Ann Schmidt. So I was going to look for a motion to approve the extension of 3 more years for the above referenced BZA board members.
So move.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, so a question is, have all of them been contacted and want to continue,
Yes.
including Mr. Sidor?
Are you talking about the alternate?
Oh, okay, that's alternate.
Okay. Yeah, I thought about this before. I think I have it all covered, and let me know at the end if I don't have it covered correctly. I had some ideas for how to organize this correctly, but those 3 are currently on the board, and they want to continue, and their terms have expired, so I was going to just move those, assuming there's no, objection amongst the commissioners to those 3 members continuing on the board.
Okay. I'm good to vote then, I'm sorry.
Okay. I think I got a motion. I don't know if I got a second. I can't remember.
You did.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, can we call the vote, please?
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender.
Sure.
All right. And then there is one member, Pam Busha, who does not want to serve anymore. I had spoken with April about this before to reach out to the other members, and Ann Schmidt is an alternate, and she agreed to move up. I spoke to someone who was considering, who's off the board, who would like to be on the board, and he said that he would like to ask the alternates, give them first option to move up, and then he would come on as an alternate, which I thought seemed very fair, and she would like to take a regular position. So what I would like to do is move her up to a regular member, and then maybe, in theory, have an alternate A and an alternate B, if we wanted to work it like that. I know last time we were voting on a BZA member, I found it kind of confusing how it was decided. There was just a motion and people voted. I feel like it would give it some order. If you have your 5 members, the alternates always have the option to move up. And, this is all assuming no objections from any other commissioners. We, according to the charter, and the town manager can correct me, all this is subject to approval by the board. So I was thinking that Ann Schmidt could move up to a regular member. April said she was willing, and then I have a resident, H.B. Barrett, who said he would be willing to be an alternate. And I believe, yes. Commissioner Campo.
I move that Ann Schmidt be moved from an alternate to a voting member of the board, and that H.B. Barrett be listed as alternate A to the same board.
Second.
Any other discussion amongst the commissioners?
Discussion, just for the attorney, H.B. Barrett is a client of mine. I don't receive any benefit from this appointment, but if you think I should not participate in the vote, I won't. Or if you think I should retract the motion.
Just, since it's just coming up and we haven't really had a chance to discuss it, I would prefer that you withdraw your motion and abstain.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll still second.
As far as discussion, I was going to ask the fellow commissioners if you like this is getting a little technical, but I would hope that maybe this would help in the future. Do you like the idea of having alternate 1, alternate 2, and they move up the ranks? Or do you just kind of like doing it like this? I mean, how?
I like the alternate 1 and 2. This way,
Okay.
it progresses.
Okay. Then I was wondering if, Dave, I think you made the motion, if you wanted to move Stephen Sidor up to alternate 1 and make HB Barrett alternate 2, and then as soon as someone steps off the regular board, the alternates could move up that way.
I'll make that motion, sure. It's,
I think we have to call a roll on the first motion.
Is that, can you amend it, or I thought you could amend?
If the first and second agrees.
Okay, are you willing to amend it?
yes.
Okay. Does that sound good?
No
Okay.
worries.
Any other discussion? All right, can I get a vote to approve that? Or
Commissioner
vote,
Tom-
roll call?
Commissioner Tompak?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo?
I'm going to recuse myself from that vote.
And then, town manager, if we wanted to get application, does that need to be voted on officially at the next meeting? If we have the application, are we good like this unless there's problems?
You're good like this.
Okay.
Unless there's problems
Okay.
in the future, we can provide that as additional backup. I typically don't want to give that backup unless
Right.
you really want it, because it's the personal information about the people on the boards.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you very much. I think we're under control with the BZA. Now we are moving on to the CEB, Code Enforcement Board. This one is different than the BZA. Each commissioner has a member and an alternate member they appoint. I'm looking for recommendations from Commissioner Fender for your regular member and Commissioner Tompak for your alternate.
I had one that bailed on me, so I got to get another one.
Okay, okay. I guess this is just a friendly reminder.
Thank you.
I'm hoping for a friendly reminder, too. I'm waiting on a couple of calls for my alternate.
Okay, that sounds
I'll try to
good.
get something to April before the end of the week.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you, guys.
Madam Mayor, if we may, just as a reminder, we have a code enforcement orientation happening tomorrow before the special magistrate meeting.
Oh, excellent.
So being able to appoint these members as soon as possible is relevant so that we can get the code enforcement board actively working again.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to discussion item C, the adjacent properties to South Sewalls Point Road raising construction project. Town manager, would you like to take this away?
Yeah. Madam Mayor, I'm going to ask our town engineer to join me for just discussion purposes. So you have the backup information on the memo. The real short version of this is, I really want to talk about setting expectations. And so these projects that we're in the middle of are huge, as you know, and they impact those that are immediately next to, like, say, South Sewalls Point the most. They have to deal with it every day, coming and going. And really what the commission's intent and discussions with your staff is that we wanted to keep the residents as whole as possible. So as we go through and disturb their ingress and egress, and then we have to go back and fix their driveways, we still have a responsibility to make sure we're leaving them in a way that they will be good stewards of the town, ambassadors still, and they'll have a good testimonial when the project's done, so that the people that are next in line will look forward to the improvements that are coming. What happens along the way, though, is we find change orders are necessary. So a good, for instance, is we have a homeowner that recently we've determined that her gates will not close a certain way because of the way the driveway has a certain incline. And so adjustments will have to be made. And so what we're doing is bidding it out, getting it as concise as possible before we bring it to you. But it's important for us to just set that expectation with you. With every project, we know that there is going to be change orders that relate to landscaping, potential driveway issues, and potential conflicts like with the gate itself. We try and reduce it as much as possible, but when we have easements and right-of-ways that have in essence been built on or landscaped over the course of years, and then we have to come in and take it away, we're going to have some people that are upset with us. The cost of the construction is so high, as you all know, we won't be able to fix everything. If it was planted in the right-of-way, chances are it's just going to come out, but we're going to do our best to make it look great. Joe, what am I missing for setting expectations around that?
Well, as you know, I'd like to everybody to think that, we do a project, we provide a presentation, we provide a design, we try to make sure we accommodate all these issues, but you have to understand, some people's expectation on grading, for example, around a lot changes a little bit. One of the things we are trying to accomplish here is stormwater management. We are trying to store water, not only in the road, underground, but also on the properties. That's essentially what we have to do to make this work. So from time to time, the grading issues have to be adjusted. The best thing that we can do is catch them before the sod goes down, because you do the grading and then you put the sod down. Well, sometimes we don't find out about that it's a problem from people until after that happens. Driveways, we have put in all the projects, or in the project bid, we put adjusting driveways. Sometimes we just go to there's a normal slope that you would allow in a driveway. Some people would rather that we go all the way to their garage door. And sometimes we do that because they may have a pattern we can't match. So they're all a little different. The gates are one thing I just want you to know. The people, the way they use their gates, they not only opened out into the road, but they opened in, and they use them for different types of vehicles they have. And of course, I was not expecting them to open out into the road, because to me that would be obstruction to the road. Usually gates are supposed to open into the property. So it's not that we anticipated the slopes in that one, but we didn't anticipate how they operate their gates. So essentially, there'll be some adjustments to the gate locations on that one. I mean, they're all very different. We're raising roads, and I understand people are not aware that, they're not, let us say, they're not used to these changes being so significant, and we try to mitigate them. That's what I'll call as the term. We mitigate them the best we can. But, they do require, as I told the manager, sometimes I'm nicer than she is. She has to put her foot down and tell them, no, we cannot do this item, we don't have enough money. But sometimes, I try to keep the peace with most everybody out there, and it's been working. We play good cop, bad cop sometimes on this. Anyways, I don't think it's really gotten, in the course of this project and the amount of money we have. I know the last meeting we had, there was concerns about pumping and generators. Those are different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about adjustments to the adjacent properties. I think those are, quite frankly, been kept to somewhat of a minimum. We haven't had as many problems with that. And now that we know that we are going to be using pumps, and those pumps will require generators when power goes out, we kind of anticipate what those are going to be in the future. I mean, there's a lot of projects. We've got phase 1 being completed. It seems to be on schedule. Some of the change orders that you see, like the one that's in this, as an example that's in here, remember that reflects the fact that we started a project and we had to tell the contractor to stop for a month. And he didn't charge us the $150,000, but he did charge us close to $50,000. So those numbers are in the change orders. So I just want you to know, we keep an eye on just about everything. We do. We keep an eye on everything, and we don't take this lightly, but there are things that happens, and they happen pretty quickly, so we just have to make some adjustments from time to time.
We recognize this is a signature road in South Sewalls Point Road, and so it is our goal to try and have consistency with landscaping as we have to make changes and improvements. If we take a fence out, we're putting it back in an appropriate place and trying to camouflage it the right way. So we're putting out a lot of efforts, but there will be times when I'm saying no to certain things, and you will have people wanting to visit with you or for you to go out to the homes. And what I would say to you is just please be mindful when you do visit your constituents, not to overpromise, simply because there's only so much money. And when we bring it back for one person, and it's going to be a large increase, then understand that there's going to be a week from that down the road each time. And we're doing well so far, but I thought it would be a good time to kind of set that tone with everybody and then give you an opportunity to give us feedback if you want something different.
Okay, I appreciate you taking the time. Commissioner Tompeck.
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't have any idea of order of magnitude you're talking about, whether you're talking about $1 or $1 million. And I'm wondering if somehow this can be factored in the future in terms of contingency so that it doesn't come up as a major change order. I don't know if we have quite enough history to really tell us what that's going to be in the future, and maybe history isn't going to be a good indicator anyway.
Well,
I
but the
would-
numbers are not millions of dollars. They're not hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not, each property is, certainly, it'd be under 5,000. Some of them are even less than that. And, I'm not sure yet what the gates are going to be because,
Well, we're already over 10,000 on that one.
yeah, that one
And
there's
so
probably
that's-
going to be 10.
That's why I'm starting to be concerned.
Yeah. So that one, but most of them are not that way. We do have contingencies in quantities. We normally kind of round up a little bit. And we do have items with allowances in them. Landscaping, for example, is an allowance because we always find somebody that we've touched their bush, they want it replaced. We try not to replace it because they're in our right-of-way, they're in our easements. Certainly when we do something on their property, we treat that a little differently. But we do have some contingencies in there. One of the things that, and it's a little different than what you're talking about, and I'm somewhat reluctant to bring it up, but I think people need to understand, we are designing this to a level of service, okay? A hurricane blows through here, high tides, king tides, surges, 5-foot surges, 10-foot surges, this is going to work, but it's not going to work the way we had planned it to because we have a level of service we've designed this to. I just want to make sure people's expectation, depending on a rainfall event, are something that they need to grow to understand. And having said that, it'll work better than what's out there. That's my first thing that I want to make sure it works better than what's out there. But there'll be occasions when we will have a rare storm event. We will have we'll have a garbage can lid that'll go into an inlet somewhere and it'll block drainage. That'll happen. It's happened through me in Port St. Lucie all over the place, and we have flooded streets. That stuff just happens in public works projects. But the point is, I just want everybody to know that some people think that this is a cure-all for every storm we're going to have. And the biggest thing I bring that up to you is with all this work, we are going to be having more maintenance, and because we have to make sure these systems stay clean. And we do that now, but we will be more religious about it in the future because we have more items to keep our eye on. That's why.
And then
Anyway.
lastly, I want to just, remind the public that might be watching, because I know the commission understands this, but the road raising itself and the subsequent stormwater improvements are really for the 25-year storm, the raising is, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, because while we like as municipalities and engineers to plan for the 100-year storm, and then we seem to get that 100-year storm so often now, we like to plan for that, but if we actually raise the road for the 100-year storm, the entire length of South Sewalls Point Road, it would be too high for a lot of the homes that are on that road. So the commission and the engineer years ago made the determination that a 25-year storm is appropriate and that the other homes along the way will organically start to redevelop or raise their areas as well, their base. But as we're going through these initial growing pains with the project, people are concerned because they see how much lower their property is now compared to the road. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that that doesn't negatively impact their road. But there's a reality that some homes were built at a certain time when it was very low, very flat, and now this road is going to be higher. And where it should have been built to the 100-year, it can't. It's just my opinion, and remember, I'm not an engineer, I just like to play one on this dais. But I think by the time you're done creating completion for your resiliency plan, you'll have maybe a year or two, and then you're going to need to go back and start again because you have planned a road for 25-year storm when sea level rises are continuing to rise rapidly, and before we know it, you'll need to go a little higher again.
Yeah, we'll take it one day at a time.
There you go.
We'll work on this project. But those are good points. Thank you. Commissioner Fender.
Sure. I'll just make two comments. One is just to piggyback more neutral on Commissioner Tom Peck's statement is that it seems like we've been through, I've been sitting through this process for a long time, and I've seen lots of estimates come forward. And every one of those estimates, there's always we never use the word contingency, but there's a word that you use in your estimates that is I'm going to say wiggle room, but that's not the word you use.
Buffer.
Well, it's not buffer either. What do you always put like 10 or 20% in your estimates for?
Well, so the way we normally do these is we put between about 10 to 15% when we first talk about a project, okay?
Right.
Because we don't have survey work done, we don't have all the data from the field yet. We're just estimating based on aerials and walking about, okay? So that's when you see the most contingencies on it. But once we bid it, and
Okay,
various,
so it's bid.
once we go to bid, we try to make it so that we are more tight with that. We normally don't show a contingency in that area. We may have allowances for things that we're uncertain that we may have to, and landscaping was one of those allowances in this case. Irrigation adjustments, because people have irrigation lines out there, and so they may need adjustments. You know, this board can take a hard stance on some of these things, I'll also tell you. You could say, if it's in our right-of-way or in an easement, and we damage it, the property owner's gonna have to fix it. We've never taken that position, but you could say that. So, again, contingencies you usually drop out once you bid it.
Okay. Point being is, I do recall we put the little room in there for that. But secondarily, probably perhaps more importantly, is that, you know, I live near Phase 1, and I walk my dog down there at least once a week just to see how it's going on. And I'm super impressed with the progress, and I'm super happy to invest in the betterment of the infrastructure for the peninsula. So kudos for driving that forward. I'm excited to see the 25-year flood protected at least, right? So keep at it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Kurzman.
Yeah, I will say that this has really been a success. I've had people that were freaking out. They would knock on my door. I had a neighbor knock on my door 7 in the morning. I had another neighbor knock on my door a little bit later. People are freaking out because they don't understand. One of the neighbors, I went over with Joe. I already set him up. I explained to him. I showed him pictures because he's not here all the time. I go, this was your property, and I had a picture of it. You had the water maybe 15 feet from your front door. And you need this. This will benefit you more than anybody. He was going to make ridiculous demands, and I go, they're not going to go for it. This way, by the time Joe got there, it wasn't as bad. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand. And the fence situation that was mentioned, I have a picture where that lady's fence was entirely underwater, that wall. It wouldn't make sense to pay for another wall. We're doing them favors, because she had literally a lake, or if you want to call it the ocean, whatever you want to call it, the river.
We call it an STA.
It's a really waterfront property. And, you know, they just don't understand. Now what's happened, right about a month ago, if you took a ride down between Riverview to right where, I guess it's Crane's Nest or Heron's Nest, right where that one house is that gets the water in the garage, it was all flooded. I mean, I was driving my Tahoe, and the water was well over my running boards as I was going down, but yet I didn't have a single puddle between Margarita and Mandalay. There was nothing. And you know what? The project works. And I called my neighbors. They came knocking on my door. I go, take a ride down. And they were all, you're right. And normally in the past, sometimes we'd be the only ones that would flood out there. Now, as you went down, they were flooded for the first time, and we weren't. That's never happened. So congratulations, Joe. And the only place we're going to really need a little bit of assistance, and I think we got to prepare with the people that have these walls as you go down Sewalls Point Road. I don't know if they're in the easement or not, but what's happening when you're raising the road, you're going down, and actually the side of their concrete walls are now going to be a lot lower. So if they're, let's say, this high now, it might only be this high by the time the dirt gets in. And we got to get the realization ahead of time. This way, it's not the day of the project or, you know, when they're doing the construction, so they could see already what's happening and the benefits.
And I try to tell people when I talk to them, India Lucy, and you probably know there's a wall there, but you see the landscaping that has grown up there. That is the project we did with the county. They didn't raise the wall there either. They would not raise the wall, but the landscaping has taken over. And quite honest, the manager pointed out even where the wall is on this property, it may be better, and those people may like it better to put some landscaping there and help us with some of these problems. So I mean, I think it's a great idea, because of course we want everybody, when they're done with this, to say, hey, this looks nice, we're really happy they did it, and it is accomplishing what we said. So, you know, I think there's going to be some adjustments. Every place as we go up this, you know, South Sewalls Point Road, we're going to have different types of improvements, and we can try different ideas. You know, we've talked about it a little bit. You know, this has got an exfiltration system and a stormwater treatment area. Maybe we will do more maybe we'll try pervious pavement. There's different things we can do. I have to be conscious of who you have to maintain it and what those costs are for maintenance, of course. So it's, you know, this system works. I've seen periodicals where people down south are using it now to address sea level rise in their communities. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's the only solution, but it is one that has worked. And we modeled it after India Lucy, and the India Lucy roadway used to flood all the time, and we'd have to close North Sewalls Point Road. And since we did that one in the 90s, we've very seldom closed the road. So, I mean, I think that's what we've kind of modeled it after. But there's adjustments, and we'll be listening to different comments that people have. So,
All right, thank you, Joe. I have 2 little points. As far as the change orders and residents, property owners, their property, I think I'm more concerned about their gates and their walls than the landscaping. If the landscaping is in the town's right of way, I think that's where there's more wiggle room, a tree, bushes. I understand that they want it back the way it is, but it is our property. We're trying to reduce costs. But if there is a problem with someone living their lifestyle, you know, like if they do live it, you know, because I've met with that homeowner and they live a lifestyle that makes sense doing what they do, I think those are the times that we should try to put them back to where they were in terms of their structures and utility and use, as opposed to total aesthetics, which I think there's wiggle room with landscaping is my point there. And then what are the total change order costs we've had so far, not with the pumps and the generator? Do you have just an estimate? I realize I didn't ask for this before, so.
The last one was 300,000.
yeah, that one was.
One before was, I want to say 46,000 for the pump, but we may have rolled that in.
Or what, do you know what it was just for the residences? Because the 300,000, wasn't that the,
Well, we put that in with, there were
Yeah.
3 residence pieces that were in with the 300,000. They were about 3,000 apiece.
okay, I'll have to go, I can ask you guys later. You don't have to, because I know this was just discussion anyway, so I'll ask you guys later. But thank you, Joe.
I typically try and keep it within procurement rules. So if it's
Yeah.
3,000 or less and it's something I can approve, that's great.
Right.
We start getting to 10,000, it's going to have to come to the commission.
Okay.
And, you know, I've already told the homeowners that they're fine with it too. We're going to do the best we can to make them whole, and then when it gets to a certain amount, it might have to come to you guys, that's all.
Okay, that's not, oh, Commissioner Fender.
So have we said specifically what we're talking about?
This is just, the town manager was trying to let us know this is happening and prepare us for more conversations, correct? Isn't that the gist of
Yes,
it?
you are receiving many emails, I don't know if you've seen, or calls, and as the projects go on, you'll start getting lobbied more and more. And
Okay,
so
I
want
thought you was going to show us a stack of them.
No, I
That's not-
asked that
okay.
question, but it was
Okay,
off the
all right.
cuff, and so I can get that information later. I was just curious. We've already approved them all, so we could go back and look on our agendas.
Change
Oh,
order-
no. It was passed. I was asking.
Just so you know, change order 1 was reduced the speed limit signs was $1,600. Change order 2, we had to abandon a sewer line, underground sewer line, that was $2,300. And we have the $300,000 one, which entails the delay that we had. And of that $300,000, I think the number for the top 2 numbers, the 52 and the 22, if you look at your agenda item, that's 74,000. That was because of the delay. That's because of the delay. So the pumps and the generator were the 83. So that's 17. That's 23. $230,000 roughly minus 30. So it's about $190,000 is what we're paying for the pumps and the generator of that change order. The rest of it was the delay.
Okay,
So
Okay.
that's what we've seen so far.
okay. Thank you for getting that information so quickly. All right, we are moving on to item D, the review of commercial trash containers regulations. Town manager.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, there have been ongoing complaints about the trash receptacle areas for the commercial locations within the town, especially those supporting restaurants. As town staff serves the public and the request compliance from property managers, we receive pushback that they are providing compliance based on our current codes. At times, that is true, since our ordinances really don't require much. And so what I'd like to do as a result is look to add some requirements and some, if you will, code infrastructure that is up to date with more modern times, so that we can have appropriate camouflage for trash bins, and then additionally, some other requirements from restaurants as they transport their trash from the restaurant to the bins, so that we don't have any illicit discharges or additional trash, none of which I want you all working on. But I think it would be a great exercise to have our code enforcement board, or if you prefer, the Board of Zoning variances for approvals. I think code enforcement is the right fit. And since we're starting to reconvene and train them tomorrow, and they've asked to be more involved, this could be something that I would be able to workshop with them and legal to create an appropriate policy change for your consideration.
Thank you, Town Manager. Commissioner Campo?
One of the things this commission and prior commissions have done is really pride themselves in Sewalls Point's environmental stewardship. And I'm wondering if we can incorporate into the reworking of the trash bins some space for commercial recycling. If you're ever out at the plaza around 9:30, I hear something very depressing, about 800 bottles going into a dumpster that's combined with their commercial trash. And to just think that we're taking our bins out to the streets, every week and making sure that there's no tissue paper and stuff, and then you hear those 800 clink, 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 bottles and cardboard. I mean, is there a way that we can encourage our commercial neighbors to have some recycling and maybe an extra bin? I think it's something that we would be able to incorporate into this if possible.
If the commission desires, yes.
I think that sounds like a good idea. I support that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't see any other discussion, so I think we would look for, I think it's a great idea to get the code enforcement board involved with this, because I support it, and I think, like you said, they want to be involved. I like it. If I see no other discussion, I would look for a motion to direct the code enforcement board to review the commercial trash container regulations and come back to the commission, obviously through the town staff, so.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Call the vote, please, Town Clerk?
Mayor Mayfield,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak.
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that was a good idea, Town Manager.
Okay, thank you. Let's see how.
And Commissioner Campo, I like the adding addition of recycling.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item E, review of 4 summary budget options. Finance Director, we're getting closer and closer to,
Madam Mayor,
Official budget
Commissioners, we have been, if you have in your backup information, the actual memo information, but we created a PowerPoint presentation to review with you tonight, if that's okay with you.
love PowerPoint.
I thought you might. And again, this is a conversation that we're having with you, so if it's all right with you, we're going to go back and forth between your Finance Director, Cheryl Dempsey, and myself, and then, of course, you all can interrupt us and ask questions as we go along. So this is your preliminary review of the budget process so far for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. This is our town commission, which you all know. And this remains to, whoa, we got to change that top. That does not say town commission. This is your staff, as you are aware as well, and our property appraiser. Some of these slides are just like we did last year. They were informational, and the public seemed to like them. So what is the difference between market value and assessed value and taxable value? We have that information here for everyone. This is simply cut and pasted right from our Martin County Property Appraiser's website, and information that we found our residents are looking for. Why do I pay more taxes than the neighbor next door? Your neighbor may be qualified for the Save Our Homes benefit in an earlier year, and you may not have homestead exemption. Non-homestead properties are not eligible for the cap. I think this is a good idea a good time to remind the commission that we run 70% of our town as homesteaded. And with portability also coming into play, it really does affect our 3% caps. And so why did my taxes increase by more than the 3% is the last question, and the cap applies only to the assessed value, not to the property taxes. This is a slide you're used to seeing, 6 years running, lowest total millage. Our general debt down here is 0, 2.87 is our current millage rate. The sworn officer step plan remains the same. This is how we evaluate their career development. They know exactly where they can go and where they're currently at. And this is how that step plan works for their PD career path, approved by the commission. And so we thought we'd start with some, not all, of our 2020 and 2021 last year, the one we're currently in, fiscal year in review. And if you'll forgive me, I want to, for the public's edification, read these. And I hate reading slides verbatim, but I'm going to do it on this one. Collaborated with Martin County Utilities for completion of water main replacement in South Sewalls Point. Groundbreaking of South Sewalls Point road improvements with hazardous mitigation grant requests submitted for phases 2, 3, and 4. Completion of the playground funding and replacement. Return of community events, yay. Spring Fling and 4th of July were attended nicely. Town Hall and Commission Chamber changes required to provide appropriate audio-visual technology in response to the pandemic. Upgraded technology and licensing for the police department through Martin County Sheriff's Office contract coordination. Upgraded finance software for efficiencies and proper procurement. Vehicle replacements, including 1 building department vehicle and 3 for the police department. Grant-funded 6 computers for the police department and replaced 6 budgeted computers on the administrative side. 6 were a rollover from the previous year, and we needed them to meet the high demands of the high-speed demands and video capabilities for remote meetings. Crafting of the updated police policy manual was initiated. Rollout and completion of a new electronic records management system for the police department. Continuity of care and service from Town Hall and PD during the COVID pandemic. That means we didn't shut down. I think we worked harder than ever before when we were here. And completion of the South Sewalls Point Resiliency Project Phase 1, Parts 1 through 3, funded primarily through grant revenue, with the expected completion in August 2021. Beyond that, we were able to create a plan and execute for maintenance for inlet and outlets throughout the town. That includes the 3-year cadence. Other maintenance that was completed: road repairs, road pavings, emergency outlet repairs, great replacements, that's for our stormwater management, bridge repairs, seawall repairs, monthly street sweeping, and over to the right, we listed out the street repairs specifically on our first 13 that we were able to execute before the holidays. How were we able to do that with 2.87 mils? This is, one more slide before we get to that. Last year, I gave you a slide of potential concerns. And as you take a look at those 4 items, I can tell you that all of those areas of concerns came to reality, and they impacted the budget, but we were able to absorb it. And we were able to do that with our 2.87 being frugal, and also we had some non-recurring revenue benefits that we use. So federally, we were able to accept funds from the coronavirus aid relief. You know that as the CARES Act. Also, coronavirus emergency supplemental funding through the police department, the CESF, and then local, we had an increase, a very strong increase in new construction and those building fee permits that helped us do the road improvements along the way as well. And just as a side note, we know that coming up here in the near future, we're expecting $932,000 from the American Rescue Funds, half of that this year, half of that next fiscal year. That means we're expecting half of that, the $467,000, before September 30th. And then the other half, October 1st and beyond. We don't know exactly when then. Ad valorem taxes and non-ad valorem taxes. We don't have to read the whole thing on this, but on June 25th, 2021, the Property Appraiser's Office certified the initial taxable value for the town of Sewalls Point. The 2021 adjusted taxable value is $732,550,284. As requested from the June 22nd, 2021 Town Commission meeting, staff has prepared 4 different budget options using the millage rates defined by the Florida statute. The table on the next slide is a sample of ad valorem proceeds at various millage rates based on the adjusted taxable value. And with that, I'll let our finance director start to speak so I can take a drink of water.
Sure. So this should look a little bit familiar. We presented some rough numbers at the last meeting. These are the final numbers that are reflective from the e-trim system based on the property appraiser and the rollback rate, as well as statutory maximums for each step based on those votes. So again, that number 4 at the bottom could be up to 10 mils. We had tossed around some numbers in the last discussion, and so the direction was, let's look at a number that's not 10, but maybe more than the 3.268. So the 4 mils, again, would require a unanimous vote by the commission.
And we can come back to this slide.
Something's not right there.
What's not right?
The millage rate says 4.0. Is that correct? Bottom left?
And what is your concern? I'm sorry, I mean, the millage rate says 4.0, yes.
Okay. So when you compare that to the delta from present year, it says 42.5.
Okay.
Is that an accurate number?
Well, I mean, I can get a calculator, sure, but it would be,
Because 3.26 is only 16.8.
well,
Something's not right there.
it's not a percentage of the millage rate, it's a percentage of the proceeds that would be from the prior year. So instead of 2.1 million, the proceeds would be 2.9 million. And so that number would be 42%. So I can get my calculator.
You do the subtraction on the proceeds column. Should get you close, right? 2.06 minus 2.797 should be 884,000, I hope.
212,533 times 0.4295. Yeah, I mean, so if I'm looking at that, it's 4295 is $907,000 difference, so that's 884. So, well, that's proceeds at 95%. So I would need to back into the 100% number. So give me just a second.
I don't want to get you caught up in this. Something really doesn't look good now.
0.95, so 3099, if you can pull it back up, because 3099.
Uh-oh.
Blue screen is death.
That hamster that we have that likes to run around.
Is that,
Needs to be said. I'm good, you can keep going, I'm sure your numbers are accurate.
And
Okay.
Cheryl, the change from the prior year would be tied to the proceeds that's not even on this because the 2.87 is based on the new proceeds. So when you did the change from prior year, that's from what?
Well, so it's based on 2.87 of last year's taxable
Yeah.
value.
Okay.
What do we get, 2.2% bump from the property values?
2.7,
And what was the county?
4.4.
wow,
Ocean Breeze saw the largest increase at 9.7.
wow.
There you have the most
Well, they
new
have-
construction.
Yeah, total renovation.
So, and the reason there's a little bit different on that first part is we only budget at 95% collection, so 95% of the 2.7 is that 2.57% difference.
And we did not do a budget amendment changing that?
We did not. I mean, we recognize the revenue because we received it, but we did not amend the budget, no, sir. So, well, I was going to say, I can,
It's a conservative view, it's good to.
Okay, okay. I know we were having a little technical difficulties here. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss without your PowerPoint?
well, I was
Otherwise,
going
we
to say, and we can
discuss-
talk about, so I don't know if anyone had a chance to estimate your property taxes, but yesterday we released an estimator that's available on the website, went out to all residents, where you could go in, put in what you feel your assessed value is.
I wouldn't know that for anyone, but you could do that for yourself. And those, each of those millage rates that are identified in the memo that was presented are on the website, and so residents can see what that looks like for them. How does this affect me? What does it look like for me? And what is that difference compared to the 2.87 mils? So that is available and on the website now. There, it is in big letters that it is just for the town of Sewalls Point. I don't want anyone to be confused and think that that's going to be their property tax bill. And again, it is an estimator, so the final trim notice is going to be obviously the hard and fast values, but it's a helpful, we feel, a helpful tool that people can use for themselves personally.
And Cheryl, thank you for doing that, you and Michelle, because all the conversations I've had started with my husband, it always comes down to what does this mean for me?
Sure.
What am I going to pay? What's the difference? And what is it really, the change? And
So, and then just to look at timelines then, so at the next meeting, we'll be asking the commission for a final millage rate that that you'd like to adopt, so that we can meet those statutory guidelines in notice of hearings and publication in the trim notice. I did just check, I was waiting for Martin County and the school board to look at their meeting dates. So at the next meeting, we'll also be providing you some options for meeting dates, just to kind of give you an idea of what the timeline looks like. So in September, we'll need a first and a final hearing. We can't meet the same day that Martin County meets, and we can't meet the same day that the school board meets, so.
and I want to also clarify for the other commissioners, because I just, realized this today. I was in speaking with Michelle. So what we decide at the end of July, at the next meeting, is the maximum amount of millage that we are willing to accept. And then we go through other processes where in theory it could be lowered. So I just wanted to get that in I thought that was helpful for me to know that this is all about guiding you guys where to go, and then at the end of July, what we vote on is the maximum millage you're willing to accept, but then we go through the other procedures to solidify that rate. Is that correct, Town Manager and Cheryl?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
what we were looking at July 27th is your final vote on what the maximum will be.
Okay. Just wanted to.
Okay, thank you for your patience. I don't know why it shut off there, but it did. So as we moved into the budget, I had a chance to speak with a couple of you, and I had a commissioner ask me, hey, how come there's no stormwater or capital projects on our base budget? And the reason for that is because without specific funding for these projects, they will not be placed in the budget. And so we want to get these projects done regardless. And so we have been pursuing, since 2016 before us, appropriate grants to be able to pay for the construction of these projects. With appropriate grants comes a town responsibility and a town portion. And you all have heard this year after year. When we take a look at this, I gave you just 2 examples here, but in this last 4 months alone, we have applied for local mitigation strategy and HMGP grants. And for the 3 that are most important to us, which would be Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4 of South Sewalls Point, that are actually right now being worked on, and we were hoping we had an answer before we came to this meeting, but we didn't. If we are awarded those, the town portions of those comes out to $1.5 million. That's just the matching funds for the projects themselves. So the little asterisk goes down here, just to call out and a reminder that not all land acquisition costs may be covered with that. So land acquisition may be over and above that as well. And it does not reflect the North Sewalls Point project, which we may move potentially to the next fiscal year because it's just a very high, for use of a common word, copay that would go along with it, $1 million. Any questions on that before we go through? All right. So Cheryl, anything else on that one? Mm-mm. Okay. Moving into the budget some more. Public safety. It's always a large part of our budget. This is a similar slide to last year's review of this information. And so we just kept last budget year, this column here, and we added the new column. So the contracted fire rescue services with the city of Stewart last year was $517,000 and change. And now for this coming year, it's gone up to $530,198. The human resource personnel cost for the town police department, $879,500. This year, we're looking at $925,000. I have a little asterisk here because it does not include any unanticipated impacts from the bargaining unit formation within the PD potential. The subtotal for these two, you can see the difference, goes from 1.396 to 1.455, which is about a 4% increase. And as last year, it equates to almost 70% of our projected gross ad valorem tax revenue, just for public safety. So we've been talking also about fire suppression and emergency medical services and that potential to create an MSBU, so a separate taxing district for the entire town, so that we can move it from the general fund over. Since 2010, the town has financed this service contract via the ad valorem tax collection method, meaning it's part of your general fund. You move it right out of the general fund to pay for it. A municipal services benefit unit is a legal financing mechanism that's available to us for the delivery of this direct benefit. The costs for fire services may be separated out via this methodology, thereby allowing the potential to reduce the millage in the future or expand general services. While the plan and logistical steps may be done this year, we can start doing those steps now. The effective date won't be until 2022. So we do not see a net positive gain in this fiscal year.
Town manager, if you just on that graph as well, while the next, I just wanted to, because it stuck out to me with the fire contract, just as a reminder that as we move into the next 5 fiscal years, that number jumps again from, the 500,000 mark to the 700,000 mark. So it's a rapid rise.
Things to consider as we move into this process. The millage rate of 2.87 that we currently have, that's going to allow business as usual. The only added support we're looking for is building inspections as needed. And we're going to use an outside corporation to come in, so no added personnel. With the millage rate of 2.97, this will allow for additional street and stormwater maintenance and a cleaning crew for town hall. We still haven't been able to get a consistent cleaning crew throughout, and now that town hall is back open to the public, we definitely want to incorporate that. The millage rate of 3.2688, it may allow for specific projects that you pick, but they would have to be about $300,000 or less, and that's it. So none of these top 3 options will cover the cost of the matching grant dollars that we will need to complete the projects for raising the road. Our anticipation is $1.5 million in matching funds. A millage rate of 4 will allow for policy directed. You would have to create a policy to dedicate millage, and that millage rate can be dedicated for debt services. So if it's not 4, if you chose to dedicate 1 mill specifically to capital improvement projects by policy, you could do that. And then we would be able to use that information, that resolution and that ordinance that the legal department would create as supporting documentation when we go to a financial institution to speak about loan opportunities.
How much longer do you have on the, is it about what just?
Just that specific.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Campo.
What would that look like to have a policy-directed, dedicated millage rate for debt service? What would that look like? Because we've talked before, and we disagree, about, us increasing the tax rate and then it getting siphoned off into town hall staff. We've talked about selling the lot on Heritage Way, and Commissioner Tompeck said, well, if we can devote that toward the water improvement projects. So how would that work, and what would be the handcuff, I guess, put on staff to dedicate millage for debt services and dedicate millage for capital improvements.
So remembering this is our opportunity to speak, so if we can remove emotional words, that might create concern. So we're not siphoning off anything, but this would be exactly like what you already do and the policy you already have for emergency operations, like when a hurricane comes, you have funds dedicated specifically by policy for emergency issues. And you have funds specifically dedicated for operational issues for 6 months. So it would be just like that.
So, no, I guess what I'm saying is, would that be a resolution? Would that be a resolution that?
As I said, I'll turn to the attorney, but as I said earlier, it would be a resolution and probably an
Can I
ordinance.
use emotional word? I don't know.
Yes. Attorney, what would be the exact,
Mechanism.
yeah.
We would look at bringing forward a resolution that would set the policy, but also if we could put some language into your code, then, that would help make it more clear and give a stricter set of rules.
Okay, and
It would be a combination, similar to how you set up assessments and things like that. It goes code and resolutions.
okay, code and resolutions. I have a question, because, town manager, you were talking about funds for like the operating. Now, I always think of that as, the funds you already got from various revenues, whereas this would be like more of a revenue stream that because it's from the tax. So is that,
Right now, it'd all be general fund regardless.
okay,
And you would just say, of the general fund, we want, whatever your number is, I'm going to use arbitrary,
right.
1 mil dedicated to
Okay.
capital improvement projects.
Okay, so it's the amount of revenue
Correct.
that you
So-
would be,
Legal department would set up our documents that we would advertise, have the public hearings, but then also in our finance manual, right? And then I'm going to call to the finance director, she's waiting to speak.
Well, I was just going to add to that. So the other piece of that is if there was financing that was sought for any of this, you're going to have additional teeth in there, because if you're pledging collateral, then you're not going to be able to, then it's not going to be as simple as a policy change. And then, if there's any repayment happening, or if there's borrowed funds and you're pledging that collateral specifically, then, so you've got your resolution side here, you've got any lending institution, so there are more hurdles to jump through to try and change that, I don't
To redirect
funnel of
money.
revenue to, yes, to reallocate those resources, because then if there were any debt incurred as a result of that with that specific pledge of collateral, it's not as easy to simply just say, never mind, we now no longer want to use that as repayment.
And that's an important subject that you bring up, because again, when you make laws and rules, you make them for the people not that are here currently, but people in the future. So just because you all trust your finance director and myself, and we trust you, you want to have it in writing, and specifically for those people you don't even know yet.
right?
The other thing you can do too is you could sunset those things. So you can create a timeline where it says, this is only valid until this time.
All right, good points. Commissioner Campo, does that satisfy your answer?
Very
Okay,
much.
all right.
Thank you for allowing me to
You're
interrupt.
welcome.
All right, town manager and
With
finance director?
non-emotional words.
Yes. Well, I think the other thing I didn't have on a slide, but I'm excited about, just to be able to bring information, Cheryl and I both have 4 meetings set up this week to find out more from various lending institutions that are known to help small municipalities with issues like this. Because maybe there's something out there that we're not aware of, and they can help us. And so we're taking a look at that, and we'll bring that information back to you too.
Okay,
But each one of them has the first question they had is, what do you have dedicated? What documentation you have in order for it, so we can see that it's set. And I said, no, we're just in the beginning stages, so we need to get there.
okay. I don't see any other buttons lit up, but I will say that I believe I said it at the other meeting, I'm in support of raising this rate to get these projects done in the most efficient and effective manner. So in terms of max rate, I would support the one that, if it's 4, the rate that would enable us to acquire the debt to complete the projects that are in front of us. That's, just to let my other commissioners know, that is where I stand. I didn't know if anyone else, Commissioner Kurzman?
Yeah, we've already started something, and right now, the way I take it is if we don't go for the 4.0, we're not going to be able to complete the project, but if we were to take a loan, instead of raising to the 4.0, which would keep it down, at least it would be more of a steady type of stream. Is that a possibility?
So if I understand the question, are you asking, can we continue the South Sewalls Point Road projects, the different phases with something in between 3.2 and 4.0? Is that your?
That's correct. In other words, we could take a loan, so, it's kind of hard to go in and just see your tax bill shoot up in such a direct manner, but at the same time, we can't stop the project, and, it'd be foolish. We have you already invested so much, and you can't just, shoot the dog in the head and say it's over. It'd be foolish on our part. Somehow we got to figure out a way where there's a number that all 5 of the commissioners unanimously could come across that would work, along with a potential of having a loan in between. So I think the shock value of there's going to be severe shock value at 4.0, I feel. So I think maybe taking a loan or even a line of credit, something that would offset it, where we could come in maybe at maybe 3.5, 3.4, but with a loan, where when you get your tax bill, it's not going to be anything dramatic. The other thing, which really is important, I want everybody to understand, right now, with our fire, it was just in 2020, we paid $502,000. 10 years later, we're going to be paying $880,000. So that's a big number, and that's an awful big increase. That's one of the reasons why, when we talked about, we really need, I got the numbers right here, it really needs to be separated out, and it is an outsourced thing. It's not our internal fire department. So going back on that, and I do want the people to see, because what's going to happen when you get closer to, you're looking at 2025, it's going to be $763,000. The tax, that's what we're going to be paying the Stewart Fire Department at that time. That's over a 50% increase from 2020. And that's a tough number. We talk about increases and tax increases. This was the worst negotiated deal Sewalls Point ever did. I don't know how this happened. It's beyond me. But this is... Amen.
And that's what it looks like on a graph, sir.
Yeah, it's... So, I want to be transparent on this, and I want everybody to see where the money's going. And this is a major part that's going to really suck us out alive. And most people don't realize, I looked over my own personal tax bill today. When you take a look, most people don't realize you're paying over 42% to the Board of Education, over 42% to Martin County. Then you got Children's Services, which gets a small percentage, and, whatever's left, we get the scraps. We're not, the actual Sewalls Point tax, it's not really that high considering what we get. We get a top-flight police department that's, you couldn't ask for more, where you get to know the police by their names, which I know our residents enjoy. You also get our garbage pickup. We have a building department that's here. We're fully...
Garbage is separate.
It's in the tax bill.
It's in the tax bill, but it's not Sewalls Point.
No, but you're right.
Yeah.
You're right, that's separate too. So it's even less that's left for Sewalls Point. But, it's, overall though, so far we get a lot of bang for our buck. We really do. And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that. And I've had to explain that to a few residents. And once I've explained it, they actually understand and they get it.
Yeah.
It's...
All right. Those are good points, Commissioner Carsman. I appreciate it. And to those points, the tax estimator tool that was just sent out will tell you just your Sewalls Point taxes, and you could go to the property appraiser to get your assessed value. Commissioner Tom Peck.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this, and maybe it's my lack of experience in this area, but I look at the cash flow projection here, and then I look at the what even the 4 millage rate will do for us, it's a complete disconnect. It's not even close. And, I don't know how you get from where we are to enough revenue to continue this project. And it occurs to me, and I think we looked at at one of the meetings, we had some numbers about I think it was a $2 million or $3 million loan,
5 million.
5 million, whatever it was. And the debt service on that was about, I think, $330,000 or $340,000.
Correct.
Now, that's something that, I think we can handle, but I don't think there's any way to get from our current millage rate to a millage rate that'll support these projects going forward. At least that's the way I see it, because when I look at these numbers, I mean, yikes. We just don't have this kind of money, or even close to having this kind of money, and we wouldn't have this kind of money even if we went to a 4.0 millage rate. So what do you do?
At the other meeting, I do believe they gave us the option of a 10 millage rate, which I realized probably wouldn't happen, but I think that was about the level that would cover the cost of the project. My impression when we were at the last meeting was trying to find a number that would carry the cost of the debt to meet the needs to finish the project and do maintenance. That was the number that I had, and if it was exactly 4, I don't know, but that number to cover the cost of the debt and to do the maintenance we need to just keep going forward, just keep this train going forward. I just do not want the train to go off the tracks. I think this project is too important to the town, and again, that estimator rule, you look at the estimator, and it's not quite as it's money, you're spending money, but you're seeing what you get. Like, I've been talking to people, you can come in here into town hall and ask to see the financial statements, you can see your dollars at work. So it's just a matter of, our appetite for raising taxes, and it's painful, and nobody likes to do it. We're going to pay taxes too, so it's just a matter of, prioritizing, and I totally respect everybody's opinion. If you just don't want to pay the money and status quo, I totally respect that. So I'm looking for honest opinions about what you really want to do and how can we achieve the desired outcome. So that's kind of what this purpose is, and I want to be able to continue on efficiently, and if we're going to do this project, let's do it right. And so you had said maybe
Madam
there was
Mayor?
a number between 3.2 and 4.0?
If I may. Mhm.
Okay.
So if we go to that cash flow statement, which I realize is scary, scary for me to make it, there is a path, okay? So the path would be, if we want to proceed with Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, with the expectation that we have 75% in matching grant funds, so that the town is responsible for 25%. And this is what that cash flow projects. That cash flow projects grant funding and continuing on those projects. You'll see that the biggest gap is in July of 2022, and that's in August, is $4.6 million. So if there...
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Can you slow down, and
Yes.
maybe Michelle can,
I'm circling it.
Sorry. Well, it does go even into September.
August of 2022.
So between August and September, depending on when construction starts, depending on when some of that cash would come in. But if the commission went with a debt option to cover that cash flow in the amount of $5 million, it's clean, that's an easy number. If there was a millage rate that allowed for the additional debt service payment, somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 annually, that would get you through the project and then provide that debt service payment in what we're looking at is a 20-year amortization. And again, we have some of these early discussions. I mean, I know my husband is a mortgage broker, and he doesn't like to quote rates until he has your credit score. And so, we can't get firm numbers until there's a true direction, but there is a path. It's contingent on grants, though. It is. And if you don't get the grants, then I don't know of a path of completing the projects.
Well, and if I may, Mayor?
Yes,
So-
Town Manager?
So I think that that's always been the plan, right? So for years, since 2016 and 17, when these projects were conceptualized and then broken out into phases, the commissions have supported it and have voted in favor of moving forward with these projects. And, with the guiding principle that we don't move forward with any part of the project unless we know we have the funding. Well, that's where we're at. We are in a position here now that we don't have the funding. At the end of August, when that project, Phase 1, is finished, the trucks will stop rolling in. There will be no progress. There will be no future construction until some funding comes in. So we have at least 3 that we think are in good standing, grant submissions that we may receive information back, actually, hopefully before July 27th. That being said, it will present the opportunity for us to match the funds that they're going to give us, which will be around that 1.5 million. But we will need the funds to actually do the construction first. So, like building a house, most people don't have the $500,000 to build the house outright. They make the plans, they pay for the plans, they get the loan, and they start building the house, and they pay the loan down. This is no different.
Thank you, Town Manager. Those are good points. Commissioner Kurzman, because you had been talking about that rate in between, and I had talked to Cheryl before, and I thought this was very interesting. What was the rate we calculated out that would bring us, Sewalls Point, because we are the lowest in Martin County, an increase to some amount would bring us to be the same level as the next the Martin County Unincorporated? What was that?
3.5774. And again, I don't know what the expectation is for Martin County or other taxing districts, but based on the 2020 millage rates, 3.5774 brings you to the same level as District 3 in terms of total millage for Martin County without going over that still lowest spot. So you would still be tied for the lowest.
And then just as a reminder, with 3.5774, that puts you in the category of still needing a 5-0 unanimous vote.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Kurzman.
Yeah, once again, if we do get the loan, if we just take a loan for the town, and we could get the grants, then like what we would do is just repay the loan with the grant money. I guess that would make sense.
I mean, that is what we would do, yes.
Right.
This way, you're not doing damage or anything. I'd rather see us concentrate more on getting loans than going out and raising the millage, if that's possible. And we at least have a shot, and we could really work hard at getting those grants. And if we don't, well, we got to pay the loan off. I mean, that's all we can do at that point. But at least at this point, we're not coming in at 4.0. I'd rather see us go the direction of getting a loan. I do think, maybe we go with a 3.5774. We match the lowest millage rate that's out there. And the difference being, we could still take a loan to make the difference. And the moment we get those grants, the grants immediately go to pay off the loans.
That would definitely be part of the paperwork that we would have to agree to. They would make us do that. I just want to keep going back to this slide. So when we were talking to the financial institutions, they are questioning what amount of money we're going to have every year to dedicate towards our debt service. And so right now at 2.87, just bare bones, all we have is $52,000 a year, and that's not including issues that come up. At a 3-2 vote, it's $74,000 extra. Now, I may be wrong, but I don't think a financial institution is going to want to loan us significant money with the idea that we could pay them back about $50,000 a year.
I mean, would you have to pledge part of your millage to the loan, actually?
Yes,
or-
sir. So the best way to get it done would be to say, we will dedicate, a certain amount of, and you could do it in a progressive style, sliding scale. I'm looking at Elizabeth. You could start it with maybe the 7.75, but ideally it's an equal 1 mil. So 2.87 is your base, then dedicate 1 mil specifically to your capital improvement projects. That money gets tied in legally to making sure that it's for those construction purposes and/or land acquisition specifically related to the construction. But and we really have no skin in this game, so we want to make sure that we are trying to be as objective as possible. But I don't want to go past July 27th and then have a feeling that I didn't tell you as direct as possible. July 27th meeting will be the last time that you get to give us that maximum millage rate that you have a tolerance for. After that, the property appraiser will advertise whatever it is. We can't go backwards. We can only go lower. We can't go backwards. And the trucks will stop rolling in. And Joe is out there. We have no funding to continue to go. And unless we get grants that have no town portion responsibility, no copay, if you will, that's not going to happen.
Okay. Thank you, Town Manager. Commissioner Fender.
I'd like to weigh in, but I don't want to weigh in until after the presentation's finished, so.
I believe it was.
We're almost done.
Okay.
Yeah, so
We
I'll
thought you
press
might
my
wanna
button
see a
again
cash
once,
flow.
once you're done.
We thought you might want to see a cash flow slide, so we brought that to you. And I think you already kind of went through that, right? Any questions on the cash flow? A repeat of what you've seen at previous meetings. All right, so what are next steps? Consider and establish the millage rate that will be used for the trim notice. As you know, TRIM stands for Truth in Millage, and it offers the property owner information on the highest millage rate that the elected body will consider for budget purposes. A notice of proposed property taxes is mailed from the Martin County Property Appraiser to property owners in August. The Town of Sewalls Point Commission must make the final maximum millage rate determination at the July 27th regular meeting. And again, after it gets advertised and after every property owner receives that information, we have public hearings in September. The public can come and speak for it, against it, whatever they prefer. And at the end of it, you could actually take that millage rate and vote lower before the final public hearing. But you cannot go higher. Okay.
Thank you, Town Manager. I have already expressed my desires, what I think the town needs, what I think is best for the town. So I'm looking for the other commissioners. I think they're just looking for direction. It would be great if the residents and anybody watching kind of knew which way we were swinging. We're not voting, officially on what we're putting on that notice. We're just talking about it. Commissioner Tom Peck.
Yeah, I had a couple other questions. We're talking, specifically about the stormwater projects. Now, is there anything else in our, strategic plan in terms of capital that was going to be considered for this coming year? Because obviously there ain't going to be any money for that, for sure. That's something we ought to probably consider as well. And I think in terms of, Mayor, what you're asking for, I think I would support an increase in the millage rate that would at least cover the debt coverage, and that would probably be that 3.5,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And that's the one that puts us on par with the Martin County. As for the other, if I'm thinking back and the town staff can correct me, there is always the sewer idea, I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm speaking for myself, but we have talked about it, the idea of getting that going to align with this project in the effort to make it as efficient and as cost-effective as possible and have the least amount of road wear and tear. I think there was, but this is all, this might be 2 years off, but the whole idea of just the preliminary stages. Town Manager, can you take it away?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, so Elizabeth and I have been a part of a team, we've been a pretty good team, actually, working with Martin County Utilities to understand the logistics of getting it done, coming off in neutral, if you will. And we had hoped to bring you an interlocal agreement tonight. And we do have an interlocal agreement that Martin County has signed off to from an administrative standpoint, but I don't believe the elected body has seen it. I will not, based on what Elizabeth has told me about it, be recommending it to this commission because the request from their legal department is that we set aside $500,000 a year to show that we would be able to pay back any loans that we get. So as you know, we don't have $500,000 a year to set aside. So it's obviously that the authorship of that interlocal, that piece of that interlocal is reflective of a county that has no idea of what is happening in their town within their jurisdiction. That's unfortunate. Which prompted me then to say, what other options might we have? And so I did reach out to the city of Stewart and I said, right now, Martin County takes care of A1A North. What are the options if you take your boundary lines, which end at the river, and service South Sewalls Point? And so they're taking a look at that. Okay. I don't know if that goes anywhere, but certainly from a competitive standpoint, and when we're dealing in business, because that's what we're doing, we have to look at all options. The feedback that we received on the sewer was that there was a lack of trust on whether this commission or a future commission would move forward with it. Because in the past, in 2017 specifically, we were told that the commission balked and that we were moving in that direction and it didn't occur. So the fact that we took care of North Sewalls Point in a very successful manner apparently is not part of anyone's recent history or memory. So in our point of view, and Elizabeth has given me good counsel on this, at this point in time, we really don't need Martin County utilities until it's time to install. So we would have to go out for the study, which we submitted for a grant through the state revolving funds to get the study done. We would have to include engineering services. We are submitting for that grant as well. And the funds that come from the American Rescue Act would enable us to allow those funds, if the commission chose to pay for any balances or differences there. And we would get off neutral. And then we would have to construct the project, as we would even if Martin County was involved. And it's not until the construction of the project is done that we actually hand it over to a utility. And a utility, whoever it is at that time, as Mr. Tompeck can tell you, from that time on, has been handed almost 700 ERCs to make money on from there on out. So we have the expense of creating it, and it's a public health issue. It is a public health issue. We recognize, and we put it in our resolution, that we have concern about the soil and the surface waters in South Sewalls Point.
Where is this on?
Well, you walked out, sir, so the mayor asked me about it.
Commissioner Tombeck had a question. He had a question about other capital projects that might be in the near future part of this money, and I
So-
mentioned the sewer, and I asked.
So for the
her to
public
take it away.
safety aspect of it, to me, that's the priority. Of all of the projects that we have, when you know the danger is there, I mean, from a standpoint of how we lead this organization, it's an ethical issue for me.
Question, and I just want to clarify, because I've been looking at this, the money that is coming from the American Rescue, if I'm terming that correctly, can be used for sewer, and then it says it can be used for water projects that satisfy some criteria that you have to look at. Would the road project satisfy that criteria, or no, in terms of money that, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot there, that's probably something that has to be looked at by
The
legal.
attorney and I are
know
looking at
it's
each other because
evolving.
we still have some questions outstanding. We haven't gotten every answer back from.
We can talk about that later. I don't want to get too off track to Commissioner Campo's point, but I know that people think about that money, but there are more restrictions than there were on the other coronavirus or pandemic funds, so
And it can't be used for matching funds.
Okay.
It
All
cannot
right.
be used. It can only
Good
be used for a
points.
project itself.
Commissioner Tompeck, does that help
Well,
with your question?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the follow-up is that all of those projects that you outlined in your Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council blueprint are capital projects. And so they also could fall within that same ability to finance them as you prioritize them.
Okay. Commissioner Fender.
All right. So I'm going to try again at this. I'm going to preface my statements with a couple of things. First is that, I don't want my taxes to go up any more than anybody else does, but I invest in my home, right? So this seems incredibly simple to me. I mean, if I want to put new floors in my home, if I want to put impact windows in my home, I'm going to invest in the building of that capability for the part that I own, right? This doesn't seem all that different to me. What's frustrating to me is that the business case isn't simply laid out to us so we can vote on it, right? I don't know why we're dancing around it. You know the number of what it's going to cost over the next 30 years to do this project. So to me, this is much like your fire tax line item, right? If you're going to pull the fire line out of millage, you should also have a bond initiative that's going to cover the amount of investment we need to complete the project, not just for 21, 22, and not dancing around, well, is it going to be a 3.5% millage rate? I have no idea what the millage rate's going to be. We need to back into that number with the cost of the loan servicing. It's going to be on a 30-year loan at awesome interest rates, and I guess we have to wait until you finish your negotiation. But at some point, you should come to us and say, hey, we've got an agreement with Seacoast Bank, and they've agreed to give us a municipal 30-year loan for 0.05%, to service that loan, it's going to be about $450,000 a year. So I gave you the millage rate for the last 10 years. I want to see the graph for the next 10 years, much like the fire chart that says this is what our millage rate's going to be with a flat line, whatever our servicing cost for this bond initiative. Can you tolerate this? Because this is what it's going to mean for our millage rate once you give us that.
Is that like the table that we provided at the workshop
Seemed
that
like
had the summary there
The
that
one that
started
I
at like
thought, I'm like, is this for
4.5
every year?
and was declining?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
But
I can
I'd
pull
like
that
to see it in a line chart, honestly, but,
Okay, I mean, we have it right now in a table if
okay,
that
well,
would be.
so what is that? Yeah, sure, that's what I want to vote on. I don't know what 3.5% millage rate increase means, but I do know what it takes to service a $450,000 a year loan, which is going to give us $30 million over the course of, whatever it is. I don't know what the loan structure is, but it seems like it needs to be handed to us super simple on a silver platter that says, if we take out this debt structure in an intelligent way, either somebody could say, well, you need to go to the people and vote on that, but some people say that they voted on us to come here to make that decision for them. Sure. I don't care to go down that path too far, but I would like to be able to know specifically what it is we're getting for the millage rate increase, if there is to be a millage rate increase, right? Am I being clear enough? I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I feel like
no,
I've asked this 100
100%,
times.
I think,
I feel like
and
we've
and we
done it
called
100
that,
times. Well, here's,
we called that, how do we get here?
well,
That's the name of the
it's kind
slide.
of like, our job is policymakers, we're not getting exact charts and filling in all. We have
I'm a
to.
businessman. I
the
just want a
policy.
business case, right?
Right, so
It
here,
seems super simple to me. Yeah.
So, in my opinion, what you're saying is you want a perfect world where you can see exactly where all the parts go. There's so many moving parts that rely on other parts. Like to get the loan, they have to see that you have dedicated millage.
We'll
Well,
put
we
our
can't-
contingency in.
So, well, let me just finish. So, there's a bit of our job, in my opinion, is to take that leap of faith, move this train forward. They have given us time and time again. We have these projects. The project's happening. Like, if we delay this, they're going to
Nobody's
stop the
talking about
project.
delaying.
Excuse me, I'm almost done. Anyways, it's like we, as the policymaker, we've been given a lot of data. It's just that it's not very pleasant to raise the tax rate. So it's, in terms of like waiting, the loan requires a dedicated millage rate. Well, we don't have a dedicated millage rate till we dedicate it. So we have to take
You
that
can
step
back
forward.
into it though, right? I mean, you could say,
I mean,
I think I'm going to get a 30-year loan, a $30 million loan for 30 years. You can draw that on a spreadsheet.
But you don't get fast, hard data. You get estimates, which is what we've been given. Like, you don't get
Okay,
it. So,
if we have been given them, I haven't seen them.
so
How about that?
I would, in terms of moving this forward, because that's what I'm all about, we're not voting till July on the actual maximum millage rate. What is the maximum millage rate you're willing to go, given the data we've had so
How
far?
much money do I get for it?
They just told you how much money we get in front of you. So I just, that's what we're
So
looking for.
what does that apply to? What is that? I want,
So,
On-
hold on,
Vice
no,
Mayor-
wait, excuse me.
Yeah.
The money that we had asked for is to carry the cost of the loan to finance the project and the maintenance to care for what we've had. That's what I've been told, and that's what I hope is accurate, is that that was the number we were looking for, and that's what that amount is.
so what is the loan?
The $5 million loan, and she gave us the cash flow that showed the,
Okay.
what it would cost to carry the loan, so.
That's the motion I want to see.
But, okay, so we could move that forward and turn, for the July meeting. But I just want to say that I feel like we have been given this data. It's our turn to take the step forward and make this happen. Commissioner Kurzman or Campo, I don't know who was first.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Campo is, okay.
Commissioner Kurzman.
Yes, we can't stop the projects. It's the bottom line. If the moment we stop and they uplift everything, it's going to cost us even more money. We're going to go further into a hole. And because they got to take all the equipment off, and then we say we want it, then they're going to have to come back and reset up. Right now, we got a great crew that's out there. Cheatham has done a terrific job with Johnson, the two companies combined. They know what they're doing. They're familiar already with Sewalls Point, and they've gotten this far. To uproot everything right now would be a disaster at this point. I don't have an answer right now to another way to go about this. Last time when we left the meeting, my question was to staff, what would it take to make everything go properly, to pay everything we need to pay and continue on with the project, and this is what they came up with. The only question I had was about a loan, but from what I understand, if maybe we don't do this millage rate, and don't forget, if we get the loans, the following year, can we lower the millage rate from 4.0 to, let's say, 3.5, because we do get the loans, and we're able to do that, but initially, we might have to show 4.0. Am I correct? Is that the way I understand it?
Yeah.
Town manager?
For the debt service.
So it might just be a temporary raise that could actually revert itself a year later. But this will allow us to continue our project, save the town money in the long run. And, like I said, stopping the project's not an option. Saying no, if one of us says no to it, the project stopped. It's over. And it's going to cost the town more money. And the reason we're having all these problems right now is this has been going on for years, could have been done much cheaper, and there was always somebody on a commission, no matter who it was, or at least 2 or 3 commissioners that didn't want to do this. And that's why we're all sitting here today, and it's a lot more money than it was then. And we have brittle roads throughout our community. We just got to move forward with this one way or the other. There's going backwards again, and we're doing the same mistake commissions over the last however many years have done, and that's why we've inherited, sort of like inheriting your deadbeat brother's debt, and that's what's happening. It got passed to us, it's on our lap. We want to walk away and say, no, I'm going to be, fiscal responsible, whatever, but it's not fiscal responsibility at this point. It would be irresponsible to not finish this project and cost, once again, somebody's going to be here another 5 years from now, and they're going to want to do it, and it's going to be double the cost again. And it's going to create more debt down the road, and it's going to create higher taxes in the long run. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurzman. Commissioner Campo.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's thinking about uprooting the project that we've done. I mean, we're finishing the phase stage, no one's talking about that. I think that, I'll just say, Commissioner Fender and I haven't been heard. And we keep saying, take a step in faith, but you know what? I'm glad that we're doing the project down there. It would not have started without Frank Fender. He was the one, he was the one who was mayor when all this happened, and I appreciate all the progress that Mayor Mayfield has been taking and her legacy. Pickup trucks and the environment, that's great. But I don't think anyone should be looking at Frank Fender and saying, he's an obstructionist or wants to uproot things. I mean, we spent a lot of time getting all that money lined up, spent a lot of relationship with Amy Adams. She's not here. We're moving ahead with the new business model, okay? So no one's standing in the way. Frank has said one thing, I've said something, okay? Well, we're Joe Manchin now. We're Joe Manchin, okay?
God.
And Frank has said, I see this 4.3, but the specific connecting of the dots, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
You're right on track.
Connect the dots with how that connects the loan servicing. We haven't heard the specifics about a loan. Well, trust us, a bank isn't going to give us anything until we know this or that. That's too wide of a margin. You know what that is? That's the right-of-way problem that we had down at High Point, that we spent tens of thousands of dollars clarifying or not clarifying, and we're still dealing with it, okay? So trust me, trust me, trust me. The only thing that I like about this is a dedicated $500,000 or something and a resolution that says this must be used for capital improvement projects or debt service for them. I've asked, I don't want more staff, I don't want more clerical. You can't have that. Okay, then you can't have my vote. Okay, it's just like that. Because we've got Bonnie Landry, we've got, studies. I want asphalt, I want STAs. That's what I've been asking for. I'm not obstructing to any of this. It took us way too long. I'm glad that we're making progress on heritage, and I'd like to look at that. That could be, Dave says 600,000, that's great. $900,000 for CARES. What else have we done? We've doubled the rates for the building and the road impacts, and we've increased the building permits, and we've increased the utility tax. This commission already has done a tremendous amount, and we're moving toward that. And we've made our voices known that we want to move forward. We're not uprooting what we've already done. We're moving in the right direction, and we've made more progress with this finance director and this town manager with visualizing and doing the blocking and the tackling. We're just not quite there yet of saying, give us 4.3 and we'll work out the loan.
And we're so close.
So,
Madam Mayor?
so to me, now I'll say one last thing, okay? Us commissioners, us 5 commissioners, we really only have one job to do on July the 27th. Give me a number that's between 2.87 and 10, okay? Now, in the past, not to pick on Chief Tina, I'll just use that because it's a very visual, we've gone to budget time. We need 3 cop cars, we need 3 cop cars, we need 2 cop cars, we need 2 cop cars. You know what? At the end of making the sausage, okay, we come up with a number. It's going to be between 2.87 and 10, okay? They'll work it out. They will work it out, okay? We will make progress, and we're not asked to do all this engineering as a commission. We're asked to come up with a number, and we will come up with that number, and we've made quite a number of steps moving forward. Would a resolution with a dedicated source for a mill, half a mill, for capital improvements and debt service help? Yeah. You want to spend some time between now and the 27th putting that together? I'm looking at that. Other than that, I'm going to wait to the 27th, and I'm going to come up with a number. And without a 5.0 vote, I mean, there's limited options. I think Frank and I have been very plain, what we're looking for. So, we can keep talking about uprooting it or have faith. We're not uprooting it. We do have faith. We have faith in the staff. What we're trying to do is that last mile.
Make it specific.
That last mile that we're trying to come up with. And once we do that, boom, that's all we do. We hire a town manager and we set millage. Everything else about the sign and the color of this, that's really nothing. We do 2 things, and once we do that, we go home and we move on and we make the thing work. We've got a lot of extra revenues coming in, and, probably more than any other time with a glut. So I'm looking forward to the 27th. We'll have that meeting. We'll have the next meeting. It's not Armageddon. It's not going to all fall into the ocean like that. We've made our voices heard, and we're looking forward to the progress that we make in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kim. So this is good, because the whole goal was to get that commission's appetite for how high they were willing to go with the tax rate. So you're saying there's some room to wiggle given constraints on the mills. Is that the correct takeaway?
I've said that I'm open to increasing revenues if I knew it was
Where it's
for
going.
STAs and asphalt, not bureaucracy and people in the staff, and the dedicated millage is, out of what we've talked about, something that's appealing to me.
Okay,
So,
all right.
let's talk.
That sounds good. We will move along with that one. Commissioner Fender?
So I agree with all that, but I like this chart. And I just think this chart is so darn close to being finished, right? Year 1 through 30 on the right, a title at the top that says servicing of an X dollars.
Go to the previous slide, Town Manager. Sure. So
Okay,
So this was the information that was presented at the June 22nd meeting. So these were the assumptions of a $5 million loan
okay.
with a
Can I stop you there just
$332,000.
real quick to ask
Of
some
course.
simple questions? If we get a $5 million loan, what happens to this chart? And is there a change, is there a bigger change, a longer term change? I mean, what's the term of the 5 million?
20 years.
Okay. Is there a way to stretch it longer?
I don't know.
Okay.
If that's the direction of the commission for me to look at that,
Hello, that's been the
Wait, so,
direction.
excuse me, Commissioner Campo, it's not your turn.
I don't understand.
Commissioner-
What are you asking me?
I wasn't actually asking you anything, sir.
Excuse me, guys, stop, okay? we're going to move this forward, we're going to give our maximum rate.
What's
Let's
the
keep going.
concern? I mean, we're just,
No, there was just, it was your turn to speak to the finance
okay,
director.
but he's
to
helping
talk
me.
about
I
that.
didn't complain. I mean, we're getting somewhere.
No, and we can certainly look at that. I apologize. I didn't understand that that was your request at the last meeting to stretch that term out.
Well,
and this was
longer,
based on that.
cheaper is all, I mean, give us two line items. If you did a 20-year, it would be this. If you did a 30-year, it'd be that. Which one do you like better? I mean, I don't know sitting here is my point.
Sure.
Would you be open to meeting with her and and then you guys could
Absolutely.
talk about it and then we could,
Sure.
or just,
I'm not going to have the answers for you,
Correct.
is the issue. And so
Okay.
I don't have the authority to go and meet with banks to negotiate rates and terms.
I
without-
wouldn't expect it, by the way, but I would expect a spreadsheet that said, if you plugged 0.3 in here, which might be your interest rate, here's what would happen. If you put a 30-year term on this field, hey, this is what happens to the line chart, right? I mean, so you've got some, but you've got one, right? And I'm not discounting that. I like this chart. That's what I'm telling you. It's static to me right now, and it doesn't have a title on it. Because I've got this on two separate charts. So you're super close, is what I'm saying. You smirk, but I'm happy.
No, I'm not. I just, I
Madam Mayor,
wish would have.
wait, hold, no, I don't want to lose control of the meeting. I have the
There's
town
no-
manager
this-
talking.
We're not
to me.
losing
Does
control. We're
everybody-
making
Okay,
progress.
I am, Commissioner Fender, you speak to Cheryl Dempsey, then when she is done, I'm going to say something, and then it's Commissioner Tompeck's turn, and please don't get up unless it's an emergency.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
I'll be happy to, let's call me and I would love to work with you to get exactly what you need.
all right. Awesome. Short of that, when we come back in 2 weeks, should we not meet for some reason, I hope we do, I would hope to have something that I can vote on that's like this chart, that is all on one piece of paper that has a title that says, we have talked to a bank, we have a couple of options, we think if we can stretch this to 30 years, here's what happens. We can't. They've told us we can only have 20 years, and here's the interest rate we're getting. If we get it at 5 million, because we might want to get 20 million, I don't know, this is how that impacts our strategic plan, but most importantly, this is how it impacts this particular multi-phase project, which is really what we're focused on right now, right? So I'm looking to vote on a specific line item millage, whether it's a millage item, it's a delta of our overall millage that says this millage is to push our multi-phase project forward through to completion, and we will have to pay for it over an X amount of time. I don't know, am I being too, I'm using a lot of words, but I'm trying.
I'm going to write it down, but I want to make sure I'm clear. So you would like scenarios that include the completion of phase 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, that's what this 5 million represents, right?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, good, all right.
And what that payback looks like and the millage rate that is required to do that?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Is that not what is
I guess
required?
I don't understand how that's different than this. I mean, I understand I need a title
Well, I'm
and 1 through
interested-
30 on the
I'm
left.
confused by this mainly because the millage rates changed, but maybe that's because
That's
this is
correct.
smarter than me, and it's actually taking into account future growth.
Correct. That's why the taxable value increase is on the
that's
left
awesome.
there.
Also, I'm interested in being able to say, this millage rate is a fixed term, which will go away. It's a bond initiative that we won't pay for forever. We're using this millage rate, just like we're doing the fire discussion. At the end of the term we talk about, this millage rate will be gone, right? This is only used for this incredibly important project to raise our road and to solve our flooding issue. And by the way, I'm open to saying other strategic initiatives that are in our 10-year plan too. It doesn't, why, if we're going to do it, let's do it right and get what we need. But the problem is I don't know how much servicing I can get for whatever millage rate increase we're talking about. And it should be a simple vote to me. That's my.
Okay. I will say that every year, correct, the commission has to vote on the rate, so even if whatever she inputs is always subject to whatever the commission that year decides. So
Absolutely.
everything that she's going to do will obviously be subject to some sort of change. And then I'm concerned, as the town, worried about cost, we want to make sure she doesn't spend too much time. She works part-time, so just.
Well, I'm concerned about boiling this in with the rest of the millage, right? I mean, this to me is a specific quote-unquote tax increase that should be for a finite amount of time, that it's not just, that's what the constituency cares about. They're like, oh, they're raising our taxes and it never goes down, right? Well, okay, let's make it palatable. Here's what you're getting for this, and by the way, it's designed specifically not to last forever. This is a specific bond initiative to help us better invest in our home.
I agree.
Invest in our space,
Okay, Commissioner Tompak has been waiting, can I?
He's very patient.
Yes,
Well, no, I'm thinking, Frank, what you're asking for and what James is asking for is the same thing I asked for about half an hour ago. And I think, maybe what we can do here is, I understand you haven't met with the financial institutes yet, but they'll give you an idea of what rate you can expect, and then they'll put together a debt schedule for you, whether it be 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years, whatever they think, and we can certainly equate that to a millage rate, and I think that's all we're asking for,
I
right?
think so.
So it doesn't seem too complicated to
That's my
me.
point. It seems easy.
All right, then. So what we're looking for is what is our, just to get a gauge of our, you had said you would be open to, would you be, if they could satisfy those requirements, you're saying you're open to increasing the millage rate because we have the restrictions of 3 to 2 to vote, 4 to 1 vote, 5 to 0 vote. If those satisfactions are met within reason, then you would be open. We're not voting till the end of reason. This is just till the
Yes,
end
but
of
I
July.
would put some caveats around that.
Okay. All right, Town Manager.
So wanted to say that, to go back to where everybody is asking us to give you information about the loans and how many years, and I think I started the conversation right after Mr. Tompak spoke about it, Commissioner Tompak. We're meeting with 4 different financial institutions this week.
Awesome.
And the reason we're meeting with them is because we don't think we know everything. And so we have to meet with these groups who are well-known for helping small towns, to have them take a look at what we are doing and to give us better options. So we're starting there. We believe that what we've given you has answered your questions. You are telling us it has not. So we will see if we can get the questions answered in a different way and bring it back to you again.
We think you're close.
Okay. We think we're close too. We think that based on our first blush of conversations, that what we've provided you is typically what is provided to commissions for them to make a decision. That's what we've been told. If you would like more details, we will ask for these organizations to provide details. My concern, and I will get offline, I will get together with the town attorney, my concern about just doing more than just preliminary meetings with groups is we may have procurement rules to be able to do business with them. And so I want to make sure that we follow those rules. If those rules come into play, I may not have all the answers you're looking for by the time you have to make that decision. I mean, that's how government works. And so that's typically why commissions make decisions based on this information that you get from your certified financial government officer. Bonds, I keep hearing the word bonds put out, and I just want to make sure that we understand that that is something completely different than just debt service.
I'm using
And
it
so,
metaphorically.
Town Manager, go on.
and so when we're putting that out there for consumption, I think that causes more confusion. And so bonds are something that my experience has told me, and our superficial conversations with the finance lending groups have told me, we may not be in a position to afford those kind of options. They're very expensive. And so it will be a simple debt. It will be probably state revolving fund options, which are the best because it's going to be 1% or less. We had that option last year. The commission said no to moving forward. We as staff don't have we have certain leeways. We have to make sure that we are working in the way you want us to work. So to be honest, I stretched myself a little this week to make the appointments with the lending institutions. I'm glad I have consensus to do that. I'm looking at everybody you want to, and we'll move forward. It is important to say again that after the end of August, we are still moving forward with the grant submissions. We may get responses, and we will be in a position to have to make a decision, if we get them, on how to come up with the matching funds. These projects are your projects. and you started them in 2016, and now it's time to pay for them. And all we're trying to do is figure out a way to pay for it in a way that's palatable to the commission. And it's your culture and your town, and so we're providing the information that you want.
Thank you, Town Manager. And yes, these conversations get tense. Taxes, you know, we all, it's important, it's money, but, you know, I'm reminded every day that I'm doing this job that we're on the same team, we're working for the same vision. So even though we may differ on our appetite for this is, you know, we all have the same focus, and I just hope that we can remember that. And it was just, I really appreciate honesty, like even if, you know, just honesty from all the commissioners. I try to get out there and say how I feel, and I'm willing to work out the details, you know. So that's what I'm looking for, as opposed to, you know, conflict, just, you know, honesty. So thank you. I appreciate that, Town Manager, putting all this together. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fender, I apologize.
Nothing, I was just going to make one final comment that if you hear frustration in my voice, it's because I approach this from an entrepreneurial perspective. If there's something as an investor or a businessman that I want to do, I visualize where I want to be, and then I try to put together a business case that says, this is how I'm going to get there. And that would be, I'm going to go get a loan, and you said you stretched yourself. I would say, take the risk and just go balls to the wall and say, I did some research, here's what I think if we were to do this in this scenario. That's why I keep asking you for scenarios, right? It's like, nothing's set in stone. We're trying to visualize how to get from point A to point B. And it needs to be kind of super simple and put on a TV dinner for us, right? So I'm excited to hear that we're going to have some meetings with some banks and come back with something a little more tangible. But you don't need to wait for that. You could visualize the business case that may or may not come to pass, right? Just like when we put a grant submission in. We don't know that we're going to get that grant. We hope we do. And we invest some time to get it. This is the same kind of thing, right? Anyway, I'll leave it
Okay.
there.
All right, thank you. So we will come back in July and have to vote on the maximum rate allowed that we have. So let's all mull on that, and feel free to call the staff. They're all super helpful at any time with, well, what does this mean? And so they're all super helpful. So let's all think about that before the July meeting. And we are on to,
Can we show the tax estimator?
oh yeah, that would be great. I love the tax estimate.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this was established after the request that Mayor Mayfield actually received from many residents, it sounds like. And so, Cheryl, you did a great job of getting this together for us. If you go to the website, under Sewalls Point, you hit Government, you'll see over to the right, it says Tax Talk, or you can just type in Tax Talk. It's down here as well. And here, it will tell you, it is an estimate of what potentially you will pay in taxes just for the town of Sewalls Point. It is just a tool to use to understand that, and what that looks like. So let's take a look. All right, so then the Excel spreadsheet comes up. Here's the taxable value for your home. So you get to click on this. It's going to ask you for a password change when you go to change it. So let's just change it to, what is the median now, 700?
763.
763. Now it's asking me for the password, and then up here we say use TOSP in the capitals. So TOSP, Town of Sewalls Point. Go back in and change this, 763,000, and then hit enter. This is currently the optional millage rates that we're looking at 2.87. Not a change, 2.97, $77 more. 3.26, $304 more. And at 4, it's $862 more
Annually.
annually. If it's a home that's, you've been here a while, and it's around 300,000, it's $30 more a year at 2.97, $119.64, and $339. And that is to guarantee safe passage on all your resiliency projects.
Okay, thank you. I think that is a very handy tool, one have wanted in my life before, so thank you. Thank you, Cheryl and Town Manager. All right, and now we are moving on to commission and staff closing comments. And before I get to the staff comments, I do want to say there was a, and I feel bad, there was a public comment on an agenda item, and those have to be submitted before the agenda item. And when I first started being mayor, I would go through the rules at the beginning, and I have slacked off a little bit, and I didn't realize that's what you're here for. I do have the instructions in the back, and that doesn't help. So I would encourage you to talk to me after, talk to us after, email us, or you can come to the next meeting and do the public comment on non-agenda, and you're first in line, and then you're out of here. So I apologize, I should have done my routine where I went through the rules. So thank you for coming, and I can talk to you after the meeting. But, okay, staff.
Madam Mayor, we have an update from the town attorney.
Hi, everybody. So this is a request for an attorney-client session, so I'm just going to read this into the record. Town of Sewalls Point desires advice from the Town of Sewalls Point Commissioners concerning pending litigation, specifically regarding negotiations and strategy relating to litigation expenditures in the matter of Palm Beach Benevolent Association, Inc., chartered by the Florida Police Benevolent Association, Inc., and is requesting an attorney-client session to be scheduled for July 27th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. The estimated length of the attorney-client session will be approximately 30 minutes. The session will be attended by the mayor and members of the Town of Sewalls Point Commission, Michelle Berger, town manager, and Glenn J. Porcivia, town attorney. A certified court reporter will be present to ensure that the session is fully transcribed. The transcript will be made public upon the conclusions of the above-cited ongoing litigation.
Excellent. Any other staff comments?
No, ma'am.
All right. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Tom Peck.
Just a quick one. I wanted to thank the chief and town manager and staff for the terrific job on July 4th. I thought it was a great event. Seemed like people were really happy to be out and talking to neighbors that they hadn't talked with for quite a while. So I think it went real well, and I appreciate that effort.
Thank you. Commissioner Fender?
Yeah, and I was just going to echo those sentiments. Thanks, Chief, for all the hard work on 4th of July, and the rest of the staff as well, town manager, and all the volunteers. So I thought it was a great event, and certainly I got a lot of positive comments from the town, folks who were happy to be out and about and win some great prizes and fall in their sacks. So.
All right, thank you. I just have one quick note, just to put it on public record and sunshine concerns. I had been corresponding with residents about the tax discussions, and so we had been texting, and the resident mentioned something about another commissioner had said about a dog park, and I have no idea what that is, so I just want to put that on record, that I didn't respond, I didn't talk about it, I didn't bring it up, just to put that on the record. And well done on the 4th of July event, too. I heard a lot of people had a great time, so thank you. All right. Seeing no other comment?
You're going to go round robin? I thought you were...
Oh, no, I was just going who
Okay.
had buzzed. Commissioner Campo.
Well, this was a tough meeting to run, and when you get to crunch time, everyone's rushing to get their bags packed and run to the terminal, so congratulations. I know things get, tense, and I think you did a great job tonight, so thank you. I had a question. I think probably, because I didn't want to jump in, I think just the word debt is probably a good word rather than bonding, equity line, or revolving. Just use the word debt, probably be easier for all of us. I think the town manager has got some good news. Maybe you could talk to us about my pet project of selling the heritage and putting together the RFP, and maybe if you have a minute now, you could tell us what you think the timetable of that might be and any other details. I know it took a lot of moving parts. I think it took us a while to get that train moving, but I think we made up for the time. So thank you for that, because that could be a big, a lump sum of cash, and the sooner the better. The sooner that we can know what that's going to look like, the better. So thank you very much.
All right. Seeing no other comments, then can I get a motion to adjourn in a second?
I was asking the town manager for something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, town manager.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, we received this morning back from the legal department the RFP that's ready to be finalized and sent out for searching for the Realtor services for the Heritage lot, as well as potential future services for the next year to 2 years. So we have to review the information. We're going to plug in the dates for a review committee, We're asking for a quick turnaround, so as long as legal department is comfortable with our quick turnaround of trying to get it done, advertised, out, and then responded by within 2 weeks, then we will look to add the August workshop to be a special meeting like today so that you can vote on it. When you receive the information back, we'll have to have a committee pick the top shortlist, bring it back to the commission, get you to adopt it, and then after that, we have to negotiate contracts. We would have to bring it back to the back end of August for the negotiated contracts to be approved by you all, and then we would be able to start to do business. We also will have to change the zoning on that lot simultaneously. So again, I ran it by one of the attorneys this morning about trying to have a quick turnaround. I haven't had the response back yet. We typically try and have about three weeks to a month on a turnaround, so 2 weeks is very, very quick, but it is pretty easy to distribute it locally, so we might be able to get away with it. Oh, and additionally, while I have the microphone, another piece of good news, we received today notification that we received another $50,000 grant for planning services.
Nice.
All
So
right,
it's our
excellent.
second planning services grant that we have in-house with Bonnie as well, submitted for.
Excellent. That is good news. Commissioner Kurzman.
Yes, one of the things, before the next meeting, I would encourage that each one of the commissioners possibly meet with staff to go over everything. This way, it could be explained more on a one-on-one basis before the meeting, so we, all have complete understanding and we could all be on the same page as we go in. And we could come in, yay, nay, this is where we want to be, and, hopefully we'll all be on the same page, come into the next meeting, and we could all express our thoughts, but this way, we could all have an understanding of the math going in, and what brings what, and all the different scenarios. This way, I think once we're all in complete understanding, the next meeting will be a lot easier, and I can understand the individual frustrations coming in, because, some things just may not be easier to comprehend, if, lack of familiarity. Isn't there? It's something we do every meeting. Thank God. And I thank everybody for their patience.
All right. Thanks, Dave. All right. Seeing no other comments, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
Second.
All right. Meeting adjourned.